I'm having my Korean panic attack.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's me, Legal Vices. Here we are in Korea. It's 9:03 p.m. on this dark and freaking stormy Monday night in Korea. Wow. Where to start? Typhoon, I guess, is the place to start. Yes, Alan, I am here. We'll get to the typhoon in just a second, but first, I think we need to say, hey, welcome to the mods, Alan. So good to see you, Steph. Always good to see you here. What's up, everybody? And let's see, checking down through. Thanks for everybody that is joining me here on this morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever it is, wherever you happen to be. We are going to have a good show. It looks like we should be able to do 2 hours uninterrupted by weather. Because the typhoon is just now in the past hour or so, we've just kind of now entered into the direct effect zone. So it's really not going to get bad for another couple of hours. It's getting windy as hell out there. I mean, that's for sure. I'm going to email a video to myself and then we can check it out. If I can, it's a high resolution video. I have a different way of doing it. I'm going to send it to myself another way. And then we can check out this video that I just took a few minutes ago. Because what I'm doing is I'm putting together some videos of this, and I'll put together a compilation and just release that as a standalone video, so you can see kind of how the day progressed. All right, let me send that to myself. Of course, why is it waiting to send to myself? Oh shit! Okay, that's why. I forgot when I was having my freezing issues. I unplugged my router in this room, so I don't get Wi-Fi in this room right now. All righty, we're doing this now. Okay, good. Send my 83 megabyte video to myself. Typhoon Hinnamnor is here finally in Korea. It slowed down a lot. It was supposed to be here on Saturday night into Sunday. Now it's Monday going into Tuesday. It just slowed down. And when typhoons slow down, they tend to pick up strength. And then they just they pick up speed and strength as they move northward. And then we're all just doomed when they get here. This is a big typhoon. Typhoon Mamie that hit Korea in 2003 was the largest, it was the strongest typhoon in Korean history. This is equal to, with a possibility of becoming greater than, Mamie was. I hope not, because I mean, I'm used to a lot of natural stuff, but that was Typhoon Mamie in 2003 was literally the first and only time in my life where I have been legit afraid of a weather event. So yeah, I'm as prepared as I can be. I can't see it here, but I have these huge two giant plate glass windows, and then my living room plate glass window is it's freaking enormous. And so I have these padded aluminum struts that I brace my windows with, because when the typhoons come, the windows will literally just bow in and out like this, and that's what breaks them eventually, is they just get so much stress from breathing that depending on the winds, they'll literally breathe in and then they just shatter. So each window has two of these padded aluminum struts, so that the windows can't, they can move out, they can get drawn out, but they can't slam farther in. So they've served me well up to this point. The last strong typhoon that came through here was 3 years ago, and that one had me worried. This is a lot bigger than that, so I've done everything I can. Now it's just sit down and write it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take as much video as I can, and we'll put it all together so you can see what's happening. But just kind of give you a general outlook on what the typhoon is doing at the moment. Let me introduce you to my friend here, Typhoon Hinnamnor. Typhoon Hinnamnor is all right, we need to do this in order here. Boop, boop. Why do I have so many windows open? My life would be simpler if I didn't. All right, let's do Dude, what are you? All right. Sorry about all this. Done there. All right. Most of the information we get here comes from the military Joint Typhoon Warning Center. And this is them. Looking on the small map here, how much bigger? No, weirdly, if we make it bigger, it actually gets smaller. Weird. Yeah, here we are. This is the typhoon right here. But if we look at it with the infrared satellite imagery, that opens up in another new window. How nice. So I get to close that window and then open up the new window. You're so helpful. There we go. That is what she looks like as of 6 o'clock. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 p.m. 7 hours ago. This is what the typhoon looked like 7 hours ago. Kind of bring that up. This is a big one. It goes all the way down to past Taiwan, all the way China. It's just cutting the corner of Japan, and it's the end of the band goes up here into North Korea. My house is like right here, where it's just like right here on this tiny little space. And the track, if you look at the track of the typhoon, I mean, this is a big typhoon. Let's drop that out. Bring up the warning graphic. This is the official warning graphic for the typhoon. Boom. All right. Let's make it bigger. This is what time was this? This was, they update this every 3 hours. So this was latest about 3 hours ago, I guess. No, this was the same. This was about 7 hours ago. How can this be a 3-hour warning that was done 7 hours ago? Anyway, as we can see, looking at this, there's Japan. Japan is just on the edge of the effect. But as we can see here, not so much for Korea. This is the path. This is where it was 7 hours ago. Right now, it's sitting about here, just south of Jeju Island. And you can see Busan here where I am. The main eye of this typhoon is going to go about 24 nautical miles to the west, which is just about the other side of the city. I'm on the far east side of the city, and the main line of the typhoon is going to go just over the western side of the city. So basically, we're screwed. If you look at the wind temperature, the wind speed at that time, this where it is? Which one is the one that puts it right over Busan? Okay, there we go. Follow that black line out. 95 knots. 95 knots is about 177 kilometers an hour, or about 106, 107 miles an hour. This is a big, fast typhoon. The main body of the typhoon is about 400 kilometers. It's a big beast, and it's coming, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it. Just sit here and enjoy the ride and keep y'all posted with how it's going. So that's the update. That's the update of the typhoon, how we're sitting and how we're going. Now that we're all up to date, we can kind of get back to business as usual. Again, welcome to the mods. Welcome to everybody that's here. Today, we're going to be talking about a ship that went down in a typhoon, because why the hell not? And it's a recent story from 2015. So it's still a new deal. Flux started off the super chats with, thank you so much for the super chat, by the way, Flux. Coffee, my pup, couch, favorite stream, and no pants. Pants are prison, yay for holidays. Yeah, we got a typhoon holiday. Got to leave work at 5 o'clock today. Ooh, thanks for the extra hour, boss. And we don't have to come into work until 1 p.m. tomorrow. Great. The country may still be going to hell at 1 p.m., but at least we can stay home until then. What do we got here today for me? We've got the official Johnny Depp Mega Pint Legal Vices Pimp Cup loaded with a rum and coke, or as the swankier folk call it, the Cuba Libre. There is a lot of Cuba in my Libre here tonight, so just getting into party mode. Had myself a Typhoon pizza. Whipped myself up a pizza earlier. It was pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. So I'm ready to jump in and do the show. We've got Typhoon Hinamnor, and if I hear anything going on out the window, I will let you know. Oh, I was going to show you the video, wasn't I? All right, let me bring up the video I just took out my window just a few minutes before I started. Sorry for the rambling thing. I've literally just, the last 4 hours have been me getting ready for the Typhoon, including feeding myself and cleaning up and bracing shit. But we are ready to go. To get the message I sent to myself. The quality is going to suck. It was 80 megabytes. Now it's 10 megabytes. Dump this down. I'm sorry for the delay here. I should have thought about doing this just a little bit earlier. Typhoon. We'll call this video phone. All righty. Now, let me bring up the... It's not this dramatic. It's probably not worth showing, but... there is phone video. Oh, shh. All right, hang on here. God dang it. I am just about ready as soon as I pull my head out of my keister. All right. We've got the video up. Let's bring up ye olde window. We're going to have to share the window this time. Share. This is out of my window right now. And what we're looking at, what we're looking at in this picture, I got people saying they're happy I survived. I haven't survived yet. I'm okay. Haven't survived much yet. It's just starting. But this here is a river. The river goes from on the other side of this bridge. The bridge runs right down the middle of the river. So it goes over to here. And this right here is where the cursor is in the bottom right corner is the edge of the river in front of my house. And right here, about 200 yards, about 200 meters down the road is the beginning of the ocean. So I live right on the corner of the ocean and the river, and the bridge curves down the river and then goes around the bay. So what we're looking at in this picture here is waves. And again, this is just now hitting Korea officially. We've just now, about 1 hour ago, entered into the official direct effect zone of the typhoon. And already, with the winds not being that strong and they're not being really, it's not raining right now. It's going to start anytime now. But you can see that just the waves are flowing upstream. You could go surfing up the river backwards. This is the video from my window. Wait, I'm not sure. Did I share the audio? I think I shared the audio. No, I didn't. So that's cool. Good thing I checked. Here is the audio. So you can see the waves cresting backwards up the river. And these are giant tetrapods. So this is the very, very beginning of the typhoon. Yeah, and remember, this is going upstream. This is going backwards. The river naturally flows this direction. So yeah, I just stuck my head out the window and filmed this just a few minutes before we started. And this is nothing. We'll see what we get pictures of later. But yeah, this is a boardwalk here. This is pretty much going to be destroyed. So yeah, it's pretty good so far. All right, there's all the excitement from outside my window just about 3 minutes before I went on air. If need be, I'll call Amber Heard and she can come and rescue me. We'll get a Mira rescue if we need it. All right, now that we've got all that out of the way, I swear to God, we'll get down to business here now. I do see a super chat, but why is it not showing up on StreamYard? Interesting. That's because we already did it. Stupid thing. MMS, do you have extra water on hand for you and the pups? Oh yeah, we got tons of water. And my water has never ever gone out here in Korea. But now that I say that, we're probably going to lose water for about 6 months. That's good. All right. Now where we're going today, because it's a typhoon day, I thought we'd kind of stick with the typhoon theme. We're dealing today with the El Faro disaster. Now, the El Faro is it was operated by Sea Star Line, and it was registered in Puerto Rico. But it did most of its work in the U.S. And it was a roll-on, roll-off cargo ship, which basically means it was a car carrier. They carried vehicles that literally rolled on and rolled off. It's a big ship. It's 791 feet long. It's 800 feet. That's 241 meters long. It's 29 meters wide, 94 feet wide, and below the waterline, it would have 42 feet or 12.8 meters of draft. So that's kind of the general size of the ship. It was 31,515 tons, which that's an average. It's not a huge ship, but it's not a small ship either. It's 31,515 tons. It was built in 1975, so it was a relatively old ship. So it was what, 25, 35, 40 years old when it died. I mean, that's an old ship. So this event started with Hurricane Joaquin, sorry. Hurricanes are in the Atlantic, typhoons are in the Pacific. So it started with Hurricane Joaquin on the 1st of September. Or the 30th, I guess, the 29th, 30th of September was when it all started. But it was off the eastern coast of the United States. And this typhoon is pretty much the same strength as the typhoon that is just now about to come and kick my ass. So that's kind of why I did this. That was one of the reasons why I did this. So Joaquin became a hurricane by 8 a.m. on September 30th, and then it rapidly intensified. Through up into the morning of October 1st, the storm tracked southwest, so it was going towards Florida. By 11 p.m., the storm had reached Category 3 intensity with maximum sustained winds of 100 knots, which is exactly where the typhoon here is now that's coming right down my throat. 10 hours after departing from Jacksonville, the El Faro had deviated from her charted course. Less than 20 hours later, around 7:30 a.m. on October 1st, the Coast Guard received a satellite notification that the vessel had lost propulsion. It was taking on water, though flooding was contained at the time of the message. And then it was gone. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go back to the old videos from Brick Immortor. It's copied down in the link. So if you want to watch the video without all of my incessant break-ins and talking, you can go down below, click the link, and watch the original video later, of course. But go check out Brick Immortor. He does all of these major maritime and structural disaster videos, and I'm desperately going to try to get him on for either the next Maritime Monday or the one following that. I really want to bring him on here as a guest while we do one of these so that he can talk through it as well. I think that would be really, really awesome to do. So as soon as I finish today, I'm gonna send an email, and that's going to be the start of my desperate attempt to get him here. We'll just have to see how that works out. So let's bring up the video. Where do we go? Nia's asked if I've seen the new video yet. He just uploaded one the other day, which yeah, I'm familiar with that case, so I haven't watched the video yet. It was yesterday he uploaded it, so that's I actually want to go through that with him. That's the one I want to go through with him, and I want to watch it for the first time with him. So we'll see if it works out. I hope I can get him on. That would be great. Well, as we jump into this typhoon here, we already did Flux. Flux, you get a twofer. Good for you. Andrew Maggard, Amber only pledges to rescue you. Yeah, Mira's probably the only Neptunian that can't swim. I wish I was drunk. How are we? Hope all is well. All is well so far. It's quiet, almost too quiet outside. Dun, dun, dun. All right, as we begin this, we have to do the traditional grift. Wow. Baby doll, thank you for your super chat. What? HDT, the only thing Jeff swallows is legal vices booze. Baby doll, thank you so much for the super chat. My family survived Cyclone Tracy back in 74, home totaled, winds at 217 kilometers an hour, 134 mph, with 71 dead. Makes for great family stories if you survive, though. Now, I'll tell you, I've never been in a tornado, and tornadoes, just watching them scare the shit out of me. Because hurricanes and typhoons, you can predict the course and you know the speed. Tornadoes are just so random. I mean, they can destroy your neighbor's house and leave yours perfectly okay. Frankly, tornadoes freak me out, just the concept of tornadoes. That sucks. Here we are. And as we talked about with the Costa Concordia and the previous oil platform story we did, there's a title here that makes all the difference. Disastrous indifference. So you can kind of get an idea where this is going already when the title of the video begins with disastrous indifference.
Are you connecting me through to a QI?
That's what I'm getting right now, is seeing who is on call, and I'm going to get you right to them. Give me 1 second, sir. I'm going to put you on a quick hold. So 1 moment, please. Your rank?
Ship's master.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the captain making this emergency call. The captains are called masters.
Ship's name?
Faro.
Spell that. E-L.
Oh, man. The clock is ticking. Can I please speak with a QI?
Got it, sir. Again, I'm going to give you reach right now. 1 moment, please. Hi, good morning. My name is... Just give me 1 moment. I'm going to try to connect you now, okay? Mr. Davidson?
Okay.
Okay, 1 moment, please. Hi, thank you for waiting.
God.
Just really briefly, what is the problem you're having?
I have a marine emergency, and I would like to speak to a QI. We had a hull breach. A scuttle blew open during a storm. We have water down in 3 holes with a heavy lift. We've lost the main propulsion unit. The engineers cannot get it going. Can I speak with a QI, please?
Yes.
Now, this is the same thing that happened with the oil platform, with the oil rig. It lists to one side. And all of the water that's in that hold, all of the oil that's in the oil tanks, everything goes over to that one side and makes things really, really bad unless you pump it out. They have no propulsion. The ship is basically adrift in the typhoon.
Yes, thank you so much. 1 moment.
Originally known as the MV Puerto Rico, the El Faro was hull number 670, completed in 1975 by Sunship out of Chester, Pennsylvania. Ownership changed hands multiple times. In 91, the vessel's name changed to Northern Lights, then in 06 renamed to El Faro, or the Lighthouse in Spanish. Much of this was essentially reorganizations of the original Totem Ocean Trailer Express out of Tacoma, Washington, eventually becoming Tote Maritime out of Jacksonville, Florida. Operated by Sea Star Line, a subsidiary of Tote Maritime and registered in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The vessel specs were a length of 790 feet, a width or beam of 92 feet, a draft of 20 to 29 feet, and a height of roughly 157 feet above the waterline. A GE steam turbine power plant generated 30,000 shaft horsepower to a single screw. This provided a top speed, in its original configuration, of roughly 25 knots. The ship would have a crew capacity of roughly 30 to 35. With a gross tonnage of about 17,500, the El Faro had a net capacity, or the ability to carry, up to about 11,400 tons, between containers and roll-on roll-off trailers and vehicles. It would have a replacement value of $36 million US. This vessel and her sister ships El Moro, the Nose, El Yunque, the Anvil, Great Land, and Westward Venture, all of the same era, were Ponce de Leon class vessels, a unique class of ship exclusively from Sunship, also known at the time as trailer ships. Built originally for roll-on roll-off cargo, under typical charters, semi-trailers rather than stacked containers comprise the majority of cargo carried on the main deck. Ro-ros of all kinds have been fraught with issues historically, for many different reasons.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we have the one that just burned and sank with all of the luxury cars on it a few months ago. My firm has been involved in 2 car carriers that have gone up in flames. I mean, you're dealing not only with the ship's electronics, the ship's chemicals, the ship's problems. You also have all of the electronics and things in all of the different vehicles and containers and things that are on board that ship. So if you have 400 cars, you have 400 batteries, 400 electrical systems, 400 everything to worry about. And with this, where this was basically what would happen, as they explain, we'll talk about a little bit more later, they would just roll the big container trucks, the big semi-container trucks on, they drop their trailer, and then they just drive off. So you have just all of these trailers lined and stacked up, and a lot of them are refrigerated, which constantly is running electricity. So you can get problems that way.
Crews lacking in seafaring knowledge, lacking maintenance, vessel instability due to modifications, and that's just to name a few, giving rise to the type's nickname in the industry, roll on, roll over. While operating in Totes Alaska routes, the El Faro, still the trailer ship Northern Lights at the time, would receive what the Coast Guard determined.
Yes, you can see the containers stacked on the back of the ship here, on the entire deck. They just line them up, then they drive off, and they have them down here in the holds as well.
It was a major conversion in 1992. Atlantic Marine Shipyard in Mobile, Alabama, by the owner's request, would install a large mid-body insert that allowed more cargo on Deck 2 and a raised platform atop the main deck, referred to by the NTSB and Coast Guard as a spar deck, creating an additional ramped level allowing more trailers to be carried. This required an offset of 1,830 tons of additional semi-permanent or fixed ballast, in the form of iron ore filling 2 bottom tanks. The vessel would run Totes Alaskan routes in this configuration until roughly 06.
You're always, in my opinion, maybe some of you engineers in the audience that are watching now have a different opinion, but you're always, in my opinion, messing with fire. You're playing with fire when you start screwing with the original configuration of a ship. And a lot of accidents start out when you have a smaller vessel and you want to make it a bigger vessel. So you have to add on the superstructure. And like they just said, you have to add additional steel at the bottom of the vessel. So not only does it weigh more on top, it weighs more on the bottom. And that can do funky things with not only the balance and ballast of the vessel, but also with the welds and things. If the welds are bad, or if there's leaks or cracks, or if things, the 2 different steels that you're welding together are different qualities, you can have problems. It always freaks me out when they start adding on to ships and increasing the original size and capacity.
Times changed, though, the proliferation of the cargo container and intermodal transportation. Moving them relatively quickly between ship, rail, and road became nearly impossible for shippers to ignore. The monetary benefits and in some ways necessity, at least if you want to keep up with the market, the pressure to haul as many as possible, it's become a global phenomenon. Many container ships of today were various other platform types modified to meet this demand. Bit of a side note here, prior to becoming the Faro in 06, the Tote Company assisted in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 03. The Northern Lights, chartered by the U.S. Military Sealift Command, hauled Marine Corps rolling stock, war equipment, and materials for rebuilding in Iraq. In 06, when the vessel's name was changed to Faro, and as with other Sea Star Line Ponce-class vessels, it would be converted from Ro-Ro to Ro-Con, or Conro, a roll-on, roll-off container ship hybrid of sorts. The work performed again by Atlantic Marine Shipyard in Mobile. With the mezzanine-type platform removed, the main deck would be made compatible with today's most common general-purpose containers, and especially electric refrigerated containers, crucial to Puerto Rico's food-grade product supply chain coming from mainland U.S. Vehicle stowage would remain below, spread out between decks 2, 3, and 4. The main deck needed heavy reinforcement, though, and support foundations to accommodate stacked containers for this now lift-on, lift-off configuration, or LOLO. This added even more weight, regardless of removing the platform and ramps. This and the additional cargo carried on the main deck.
Salty Buddha says, didn't like maritime law, but I'm here to leave a like.
Even more
Thank you so much.
Ballast in bottom tanks, another 4,875 tons of iron ore. However, this time the Coast Guard and its Marine Safety Center, or MSC, wouldn't consider this a major conversion like they did with the modifications back in '92. They'd intended to when the project was initially proposed, but Tote, or Totem at the time, their Vice President of Marine Operations, sent multiple requests urging the MSC to reconsider. According to the MSC, when a vessel undergoes a major conversion, it's considered a new vessel and must be brought back into compliance with all standards on the contract date of the conversion. Given the potential cost and schedule of a major conversion determination, MSC recommends that vessel owners seek a determination early in the planning process. Requirements like drawings showing before and after vessel conditions, description of modifications including changes to length, beam, depth, height, lightship displacement, deadweight capacity, passenger capacity, and on and on. It becomes obvious the short-term advantages for a company looking to skirt these regulations. The 06 modifications would significantly increase cargo capacity, change the vessel's maximum allowable draft by an increase of over 2 feet, reduce freeboard, which lowered hull openings closer to the waterline due to the much lower load line, all major stability changes.
And that's where you're starting to get into trouble because, as they're saying, this is a roll-on, roll-off vessel. The side of the ship opens up, and these giant ramps come down, and the ships drive into the cargo hold part of the vessel. I mean, the cars and trucks and semis will drive into the cargo hold part of the vessel and then drive off again. And what you're doing by adding all of this extra weight is you're bringing those doors and that ramp closer to the water. That's where you start getting into problems.
Despite all this, though, the MSC pulled their proposal to class this as a major conversion, as was the case previously in similar conversions with the El Yunque and El Moro.
Those are old ships.
A former master with 25 years' experience captaining these Ponce-class vessels, in later testimony stated, the Sea Star ships, when you talk about structure, they were Ro-Cons, so the containers were on the upper decks. And with a heavy load of cargo, they would be a tender ship as opposed to a stiffer ship. A tender ship is a little bit more of a different animal to handle, especially in rough conditions. End quote. The differences between what's referred to as a stiff ship versus a tender ship in the world of seafaring are quite substantial. From FAO.org, a stiff vessel tends to be comparatively difficult to heel and will roll from side to side very quickly and perhaps violently. The terms violently and quickly used in this instance because its power to return to horizontal is so great that it happens immediately, and a tender vessel will be much easier to incline and will not tend to return quickly to upright. The time period taken to roll from side to side will be comparatively long. This condition is not desirable and can be corrected by lowering the vessel's center of gravity.
Yeah, because you want the ships, if they roll, you want them to come back to center. And if they sit high in the water and you have all of the weight up top, all you're doing is making sure that ship will list to one side and not get back to where it needs to go. You need to have it so it'll go from side to side and recenter itself. And of course, the way to do that is just like anything, make it more stable by getting the center of gravity closer to the ground, or in this case, increase the draft and get the ship to sink a little bit. Well, what did they do? How did they solve this problem?
The master would go on to say, "What I observed with the ship was a very slow return. You could feel the ship list, lean over, even as she rolled from a rudder command alone, let alone rolling with a heavy swell. And because it was slow to right itself, you could feel the ship respond with more difficulty. And there's always..."
Can you imagine that? You feel this gigantic shift in the vessel as it lists to one side, and then it doesn't come back, only very, very slowly. That's like that feeling you get, when you lean back on your chair and you lean back a little bit too far, and at the last second you catch yourself. It's kind of like that feeling all the time on a ship every time it hits a wave. Ugh.
Always a concern that she's not going to ride herself adequately for other conditions. End quote. According to the NTSB's contact at Tote Maritime, though, the El Faro was laid up soon after the 06 renaming and modifications anyhow. The vessel sitting mostly dormant from 08 through 2014, only re-entering service briefly for a Philadelphia route in 2010, a route Tote Maritime soon eliminated, sending the El Faro back into mothball status. Being laid up, of course, has a meaning that's easy to understand. Laid up vessels are those not underway, mothballed for long durations, not in use, idle at port for extended periods, and so on, basically in storage. While this is...
Yeah, that's a bad thing, because if something isn't constantly used and constantly maintained, it gets out of prime condition. It's just like anything. If you have an electronic device, no matter what it is, especially if you have a mechanical device and you just leave it in a drawer for, this ship was mothballed up for 6 years. If you just leave take a watch, take something and stick it in a drawer for 6 years and then pick it up and see how well it works. They require a lot of maintenance, even while they're mothballed. And we got a super chat here from Andrew Maggard. For real though, stay safe and wishing the best. Me too. It looks like the situation is still normal outside. Great there. And we have a gift. Xcomer Triple Z has gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships. Get them while you can. Thank you so much for that. That is so deeply appreciated, Xcomer. So just check to see if you're one of the lucky 5 recipients. So Alan Tempest thanks him for the 5 free gifts. So let's see who the lucky people are. Good luck with that. That is so nice of you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Now let's find out what happened to the ship while it was mothballed for essentially 6 years.
This is a simple definition. The process of laying up vessels of this size properly is actually much more complex, and every vessel's owner and operator may handle it differently.
Properly.
Some responsibly, some not so much. Yeah. Something that will play a crucial role later.
Mm-hmm.
The El Faro was brought back into service in May of 2014 to relieve the outgoing El Moro and run Tote's weekly round trip between Jacksonville and San Juan, alongside El Yunque, still assigned to the route. Rarely do these incidents stem from a single error gone wrong or boil all the way down to a single party entirely to blame. The El Faro tragedy was a prime example of such a long chain of failures.
This is something that I know those of you that watched the oil rig disaster with me were always commenting on all of the mistakes that were made. That makes this one, this accident makes that one look like child's play. The shit that went down in this is absolutely horrific. Most of it, if not all, is completely avoidable by just doing the right thing.
Late summer of 2015, Tote was 2 years into a corporate reorganization yet again. Seastar Line was planned to eventually be absorbed and become part of Tote proper, but in the meantime, the main focus of leadership in these groups was on the up-and-coming world-first liquid natural gas or LNG-powered Marlin-class container ships, Isla Bella or Beautiful Island, and Perla del Caribe or Caribbean Pearl. The Ponce-class fleet would take a backseat to these new flagships of sorts, with Tote reassigning office and engineering personnel from management of the old ships to focus on the Marlin-class fleet. For example, a director of safety and services previously from the Ponce fleet had been tasked with direct oversight of the LNGs as they were being prepped for use. All of this left critical shortages in the onshore workforce managing the Ponce vessels and still bustling Jacksonville to San Juan operations in general. In command of the El Faro at this time in 2015.
Introducing our first major problem of the day. The ship's master, Captain Michael Davidson. Yeah, as Rose Tide Roll mentions, yeah, this is all right around the Bermuda Triangle.
15. The ship's master, Captain Michael Davidson, 53 years old, was a man of commanding presence, but not much interest in the minute details of ship operations.
And that's where you die. They say the devil's in the details, and that's more especially true for these big ships. You'd think the bigger the ship, the less you have to worry about, but it's pretty much the opposite. The big shit takes care of itself. It's the little things you've got to take care of. It's the minute details you've got to focus on. The big stuff is all going to be taken care of. That's what the new technology, that's what that's what happened. But it's when you ignore that one little red light, when you don't know what that one switch does, like we saw with the oil platform, where the master didn't have any idea how to run the ballasting pumps and started pumping fucking water in instead of pumping water out. The devil's in the details. Holy crap, Xcomer. Xcomer just donated 50 memberships. Holy crap. Thank you so much. How many people do we have here right now? 217. So that's essentially 1 in 4 of you gets a surprise membership. Jeez. Thanks, Xcomer. Make sure you have the receive gifts tab on your settings marked so you can take advantage of this free stuff, of these gifts. I mean, Xcomer, that is like way above and beyond like anything that anybody should expect. Thank you so much. Cheers to you, man. Deeply appreciated. Someone asked, how do you get them? Lisa Ballerini, how do you get them? There's a tab in your settings that is click to receive gifts. They're totally random. You'll get an announcement if you get one, but you have to make sure that the receive gifts little switch is switched on. So you'll check. And if you just want to join the members, click the join button. There's 3 tiers of memberships here. And they get all the little emojis and things. You get to use all of those, and we'll be getting more soon next week. But I don't want to belabor that point right now. Just thank you so much, Xcomer Triple Z, for the 50 memberships. Wow.
According to several colleagues, known by some as a stateroom captain, one that commands from arm's length, so to speak. Davidson and his previous employer of roughly 3 years, Crowley Maritime, parted ways in 2013, the captain stating that he'd resigned, others reporting he'd been fired. Regardless, in a first for the aspiring captain,
you can't fire me, I quit.
Position of master at Crowley.
Yeah. That's this is important, by the way.
Much interest in the minute details of ship operations, according to several colleagues. Known by some as a stateroom captain, one that commands from arm's length, so to speak. Davidson and his previous employer of roughly 3 years, Crowley Maritime, parted ways in 2013, the captain stating that he'd resigned, others reporting he'd been fired. Regardless,
you can't fire me, I quit. That sounds like that's kind of what that situation was.
At first for the aspiring captain, he was given the position of master at Crowley. Later on, when a large vessel under his command showed signs of disrepair and was unable to steer under its own power safely, Davidson ordered 2 tugs to move the ship safely into port, reportedly against the wishes of his former employer. This said to be the reason he and Crowley parted ways.
See, now that doesn't make any sense. Your ship is drifting. You can't steer. You have no maneuverability. So you do the right thing and get 2 tugs that push you in. Why the company would say no to that other than a costs thing, and tugs aren't that expensive. I can't imagine. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I tried to find some more information about it, but there was really nothing too pertinent out there. But it just doesn't make sense that he would do what I would think would be the right thing, and the company would fire him for having 2 tugs push the boat safely into port to the berth. I'm not buying that story, and that's probably the story that he put out.
Starting at tote as 3rd mate in May of 2013, Davidson would climb the ranks quickly, achieving his first vessel command by that summer. The quote, sudden termination of senior officers on the Rokon sister vessel El Moro provided this opportunity for Davidson until his command changed to El Faro in May of 2014.
So it's basically battlefield promotion. Lowest guy on the totem pole finds himself way up there because everybody above him went somewhere else.
The El Moro scrapped soon after El Faro took over that same year. In addition to the sudden termination of officers aboard El Moro, there had also been much drama surrounding the Ponce fleet command structure in general. The Ponce vessels earning a reputation of being rust buckets.
Well, yeah, they do look like shit. And I mean, this ship was 39 years old when it was put back into service, and it had been refitted twice. There's a lot of rust buckets out there. Really. I mean, that's literally the first question that I ask is when I hear that a ship sank or that there was some major problem with the ship. That is the first question I ask. How old was it? And there's a lot of 30, 40-year-old ships out there. There's some that are even older than that are well upkept, but a lot of them, they just let them rust to death. And then finally, after there's no possible way for them to get safety certificates, if they just sell them to the worst third world country that's out there to handle ships, and even that ship can't find someone to flag them, then they just they scrap them. And I mean, there are some shady places out there to get your ships flagged, that have no connection whatsoever to land. Like just off the top of my head, a place that has a ship registry is Mongolia. Mongolia has a huge ship registration service. It's just for the money. There's clearly no ocean anywhere near Mongolia. So you get these places that are the less reputable places that give the flags to anything, basically. But sometimes even they won't give a flag, and that's when the owners just have no alternate course of action other than to scrap the ship. So you can get some of these old ships that are 40, 50 years old that are literally falling apart. And I guess that's kind of the reputation that this place had.
Meant the up-and-coming Marlin-class vessels caused a good bit of turmoil amongst those, quote, still stuck, manning the old fleet. In summer of 2015, 2 Ponce masters suddenly resigned, one from El Yunque and another from El Faro. Each ship has more than one master, alternating and allowing for time off, etc. The master that resigned from El Faro stating he did so due to, quote, all the drama that is going on aboard El Faro. This was amongst around roughly the same time. Chief mates caught sleeping on the bridge while underway, lax training, evaluation, and maintenance practices, safety equipment and drills severely lacking on all the older ships.
Falling asleep on the bridge is a huge thing. You get these people in the middle of the night. They have the overnight shifts, the overnight watches in a big black empty sea. They didn't sleep enough, or they just get bored. They fall asleep and bang, they end up hitting something. Not uncommon.
It was beginning to take a toll on the entire Ponce fleet from a mechanical and personnel standpoint. I suspect these were factors in El Moro's scrapping. All of these older vessels were, by this point, tired. Tropical Storm Erica formed in late August, and out of an abundance of caution, the El Faro chose an alternate route during a routine voyage to San Juan. Captain Davidson, in an email to management stating, the El Faro will transit the Old Bahama Channel en route to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Although this route does add an additional 160 miles, I am confident that it offers a safer sea passage compared to our normal offshore route. End quote. This would cause a delay in delivery, but they would safely avoid the developing tropical storm. Important to note here is that despite Tote's many shortcomings that we'll continue to discuss later, and despite their reputation and company motto, on time every time, management would respond to Captain Davidson's heads up with approval and without hesitation. Thanks, Captain Mike. Good plan. Stay safe. Tropical Storm Erica dissipated on September 3rd, and the El Faro delivered without further issue. The 2015 hurricane season, though, wouldn't end there. Monday, September 28th, docked at Blunt Island, Jacksonville, Florida. The El Faro would offload mostly empty containers returning from San Juan and begin taking on a near full load of cargo for the return voyage: containers, vehicles, trailers, and more. The crew consisted of 27 Sea Star Line personnel, and Tote had plans for yet another conversion to the El Faro. It was due to be sent back to Alaska routes in the potential future, so much of the related deck, electrical, and piping work was being performed with the vessel underway. Performing this work was a group of 5 Polish nationals known in the industry as a riding crew, a group of contractors on board since August, performing this work separately, while the vessel carried on with routine voyages. They would be supervised by an experienced engineering representative from Tote. 6 personnel on the riding crew total. This brought the total souls aboard the El Faro to 33. Loading would continue the morning of Tuesday the 29th, and it was around 10 a.m. that an off-duty El Faro second mate texted Captain Davidson letting him know about the storm forming north of the Bahamas. That afternoon, a Tote terminal manager on the docks noticed the greatest list he'd ever seen during a loading operation.
See, this is interesting. You can see the ship listing here in the picture. You can see it listing to the right side, to starboard. It's not supposed to be doing that. It's supposed to be straight. So, this doesn't look like much, but it is. That's a significant list to starboard there.
That the El Faro wasn't recovering.
So this is about what? It's 4 degrees. It's about 4 degrees, and it's not righting itself.
Later determined to have been about 4 degrees once caught, this was corrected immediately with the dock crews adjusting some loaded containers to the port side, correcting the list. At 4:51 p.m., the National Hurricane Center announced the possibility of Tropical Storm Joaquin becoming a hurricane the next day, Wednesday the 30th. Followed up by issuing a warning area across 73,000 square nautical miles east of the Bahamas.
It's a big boy.
When asked by the off-duty second mate at about 6:30 p.m., again via text message, asking, "What's your plan?" the captain simply replied he intended to steam our normal direct route and that Joaquin would remain north of us. When pressed by the same second mate once again in another text message, "We have routes," suggesting options like Mayagana, Crooked Island, and others known to be alternates to avoid storms, including those the vessel can easily duck into mid-voyage if necessary. Although technically responsible for voyage routes, Tote second mates still required shipmaster review and approval to put them into use. 7:30 p.m., Tuesday the 29th, and the El Faro was loaded, pulling away from the pier by 8:07 with 241 food-grade containers, 238 of which were refrigerated.
Okay, again, remember what I was saying about these refrigerated containers. There was, what did he say? 238 refrigerated containers. Every one of those 238 containers is running electrical equipment. Every one of them is plugged in somewhere and keeping itself refrigerated. So that's more stuff you've got to keep in mind. You've got to keep track of. You've got to monitor, including all of the cars and container and trailers that are under the hold.
241 food-grade containers, 238 of which were refrigerated or reefers, 118 trailers, 149 vehicles, 391 standard shipping containers, a few miscellaneous items like cargo on pallets, and 600 tons of fructose in container tanks or tank containers. 11,046 tons of cargo total on board. By the time they pulled away, the Jacksonville port was under hurricane condition 4 per Coast Guard orders. The El Faro regularly made use of pilot services to navigate the St. Johns River ship channel. As they made their way toward open water, the pilot, a seasoned mariner himself, brought up in conversation the storm building in the Atlantic. "We're just going to go out and shoot under it." Captain Davidson responded. The pilot noticed no reactions to this from bridge crew within earshot. Nearing 11 p.m. now, and about an hour after the pilot disembarked, the El Faro fully underway in open water. The government of the Bahamas issued a hurricane watch for the central Bahamas, predicting Joaquin to take a west-southwesterly path.
All right, so we've got this this tropical storm developing into a typhoon, and the reason I'm stopping here is we've got 117 members on the channel now, and if you are on a mobile phone, you can't take advantage of the gifts. For some reason, the gifts don't work on a mobile phone. There's about 20 around 20 of the gift memberships that have yet to be fulfilled. So if you're on a phone, get yourself to a computer as quickly as possible, sign on in, and you may be able to take advantage of one of those gift-a-thons here. Still about 20 memberships up for grab if you can find the gift notice up there. So thanks again to XComer for that ridiculous gift of 50 memberships. There's still a lot up for grabs. Take advantage of it. And while we're stopped here, what's the pre-stream? What's on the pre-stream typhoon pizza? Lots and lots of cheese and pepperoni. Lots of cheese. Drowan, thank you so much for the super sticker. Always appreciated. Thank you very, very much. This is a good point to do our midstream grift here. We currently have 257 concurrent viewers and 191 likes. Get down there and hit that like button and bring up those like numbers. Again, this is just traditionally our lowest numbers of the week. I just do this because it's something that I know about. And it's something that some people may be interested in. This is more of a relaxing thing for me, just to talk about something I know about, which is maritime law. But hey, I welcome everybody here. Hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We're going to be doing some fun stuff. Tomorrow is Tuesday. We're going to be doing the part 2 of the prosecution's opening statements. Marsha Clark giving the opening statements in the state of California, the people of the state of California versus O.J. Simpson in the murder trial of O.J. Simpson from 1995. We'll do part 2 of that. And then Wednesday, I will be on Andrew's show, Andrew Legal Mindsets show, and then he'll end his show and come and join me. So on Wednesday night, we'll have Andrew from Legal Mindset here to do a straight talk on things Korean, and whatever else that we wander off into. Thursday, Thursday's going to be interesting. I will be switching to, I'll probably do my own show on Thursday night, but then again on Thursday night, my time, which is Thursday morning, everyone else's time, unless you happen to be in Australia or someplace. And then Thursday night, US time, I will be on Joe Good Logic's show for a few hours. And then I'm working on it. We're talking, we might be able to say after that, I believe on Thursday night at Nick Riceda's usual time of midnight Eastern, 11 p.m. Central Time, he will be on my show. So I'm shooting to have Nick on here on Thursday night U.S. time. We're going to try to work out those details. So we got a lot coming up this week. And then Friday, I'm going to do a new lawsuit that was just resolved, the Nirvana lawsuit. There was a lawsuit against Nirvana over the album cover with the baby on it. That case was just resolved, and I'm just going to kind of go through that on Friday. And then Saturday morning, my time, Friday night, U.S. time, I will be joining Fair and Balanced for our usual Unexplained. If that kind of stuff interests you, come and sign up and join the channel. We're great. We're doing awesome, and we have memberships as well. So jump on board. But for me, the likes are important. The subscriptions are important. And if you want to get a question asked, whatever, if you want to make sure it gets answered, if there's something you want to get out, the super chats are the way to go. It's not required. It's not mandatory. There's no minimum mandatory amount. It's just whatever you want to give, whatever you want to do. If you want to make sure, I try to read the chats, but I can't always do it because I'm doing other things and focusing on the show. With that out of the way, we can jump right back in. That was the midstream grift. You won't be hearing that again. Oh, SH, thank you so much for the, we have to scroll up to this. Where was the sticker? Oh, it was just an empty comment. I was looking for a sticker. Thank you so much. That is deeply appreciated. Well, hi to you. At least say hi if you're going to send that. Thank you so much. Let's jump back to the show. We've got the typhoon forming. Now now lots and oh, here we go. Do soldiers still have a curfew? No, soldiers don't have a curfew anymore. That went away several years ago, Flux. Yep. You're free to roam until the wee hours of the morning now. Here in Korea. Soldiers used to be under a curfew because they were doing some really, really, really stupid things that got the entire United States military put on a midnight curfew here. Well, let's watch what happens when this changes from a typhoon. From a tropical storm to a typhoon.
By 6 a.m., Wednesday the 30th, the hurricane watch had been upgraded by the Bahamas to a warning for the island's general area, and it was around this time the U.S. Air Force Reserve 53rd Reconnaissance Squadron dispatched a hurricane hunting WC-130 along with NOAA's WP-3D Orion. They would team up in monitoring Joaquin in real time. As the ship steamed ahead on their typical southeasterly track toward San Juan, Captain Davidson and the chief mate discussed the storm's predicted paths on the bridge. The ship's onboard weather system, the Bon Voyage system, or BVS, sent graphical weather updates to the captain's email every 6 hours. His latest update at 5:04 a.m. was consistent with forecasts and predictions from the National Hurricane Center, or NHC, issued late afternoon the previous day. The cone of uncertainty, essentially the potential path atmospheric equipment and experts project a hurricane to take, was now very clearly, based on current advisories, covering a swath of ocean directly in the ship's path, but info used by Faro in the BVS, if delayed enough, may have still been consistent with the NHC's advisory number 6, errantly predicting Joaquin to turn north before the NHC had made their forecast corrections. The ship's SAT-C terminal, a satellite terminal that allows two-way communication via data packet transfer, also received updates around 6:38 a.m. showing the current position of the storm center, with reports of wind gusts up to 75 knots now. The sun was rising, and after reviewing this information with the chief mate, the captain was heard saying with a yawn, "Oh, look at that red sky over there. Red in the morning, sailors take warning."
Yep. That's that old myth kind of has some science behind it. Red in the morning, sailors take warning. Red at night, sailors delight. Don't jinx yourself.
With a yawn, "Oh, look at that red sky over there. Red in the morning, sailors take warning." Clearly not concerned with any of the weather information being discussed. He and the chief mate talked about a slight course change to the west of San Salvador, but still within or near their typical track. The captain referring to the alternate, safer course options, saying, "Yeah, it doesn't warrant it. You can't run every single weather pattern." They also discussed frustrations over the ship's only onboard anemometer. It wasn't functioning properly according to the crew, apparently aware of this for some time, and they did not find it reliable.
Okay, here you have the first huge problem that I can see is when you have a captain that decides he doesn't want to avoid a Category 3 typhoon. He can't be bothered. He can't run away from every weather event. Yeah, you can. Friday, that's what I spent the majority of my time doing. All of the ports here in Korea were telling all of the ships to get out of port and go to a safer port. Go out in the middle of the ocean, do whatever you need to do, but get away from the closed ports. A lot of ships didn't want to. So I spent the majority of my time preparing for this typhoon on Friday in the office, writing waivers that basically said, we know that we've been told to leave. We know what the weather reports are. We know it's really, really stupid to keep our boat here, but we want to do it anyway. So we absolve everybody of any kind of liability that could ever happen to our ship, to your facilities, and to anything else that happens to be damaged by our dumb decisions. I spent a lot. That's what I spent my Friday doing, drawing up a lot of documents like that. But that's when you start to have problems, is when people like this master here, who they said was kind of aloof and didn't really care about the details, is just saying, well, we don't need to go around this Category 3 typhoon. Our 40-year-old ship can handle it just fine.
A local anemometer is crucial in that it provides the ship with the most real-time, localized info possible on wind speed and direction. Bridge crew discussed the storm further, the third mate and chief mate even considering the possibility of Northwest Providence Channel and the Old Bahama Channel once again. Much like with aviation's Cockpit Resource Management, or CRM, Bridge Resource Management, BRM, is the same concept. It's an ongoing challenge in commercial shipping for subordinate bridge officers to have much say in vessel decision-making and for masters and captains to adequately consider their input. Bridge and Cockpit Resource Management mean the commanding crew genuinely take on board one another's input and either decide collectively on the best plan of action, or the officer in charge otherwise makes a genuine informed decision based on the other's concerns. The opposite of an environment where what the leader says is what we do without question. Resource management, quote unquote.
That's where you start getting in problems right there. What the leader says is what we do without question. That's when you start getting into problems, especially when your leader demands that you just shut the fuck up and do what he says.
Decision based on the other's concerns. The opposite of an environment where what the leader says is what we do without question. Resource management, quote unquote, while admittedly sounds like just more made-up corporate speak, is actually a big step towards effective, proven, modernized safety practices and training in the world of commercial transportation. It plays a major role in why modern commercial airline travel has become so safe. It translates roughly to the team members you're surrounded by. Yeah, they likely know a bit about what's going on. And in these critical moments, consider their input too.
That's important. If you search on the internet, there's a Korean airline disaster from a couple of decades ago where that's literally what happened. Korean society, especially the professional hierarchy is very Confucian. Someone who is older or knows, who is older or a higher position is just right, and you just have to follow them. The captain was doing something wrong. The co-pilot was telling him we shouldn't be doing this. The pilot told him to shut up. He obeyed, shut up, and the plane crashed. So that's a lot. That happens a lot. That's why they have this system in place to say, listen to other people because they might know something that you don't know.
It slowed down slightly, down to 19.4 knots from about 20 plus. We're going to get slammed tonight, said the chief mate to the able seaman, or AB, on duty. The AB is the crew member actually at the helm controls. Yeah,
Okay, the AB is an able-bodied seaman. They're the lowest people. They're the lowest ranked people on the entire ship. There's the oilers, which are the lowest ranked people in the engineering department, and then there's the able-bodied seamen, the AB, which are the lowest rank of the deck people. And basically their job is just to do whatever they're told by the officers and people that are above them. Cleaning the floors, cleaning chains, and they do, some of them do duty shifts where they literally just sit at the wheel of the ship, and they're robots basically. The captain says 15 degrees port, they turn 15 degrees port. 10 degrees starboard, they turn 10 degrees starboard. That's kind of what the ABs do. So yeah.
Thinking that all through August, the AB replied, like it's been too quiet this season. The captain, overhearing this, admitting the storm had, quote, morphed its ugly head, although he'd follow up with, tough to plan when you don't know, but we made a little diversion here, referring to their slight southerly deviation. We're gonna be further south of the eye. We'll be about 60 miles south of the eye. It should be fine. We're gonna be fine. He'd go on to lament stories of his experience in harsh weather in Alaskan waters, and even the close run-in with Tropical Storm Erica, along with lamenting what he believed was the sturdiness of El Faro's, quote, solid hull and power plant. Davidson's presence was said to be very commanding in itself, and in the time period, Tote's company policies and safety training was completely lacking any sort of bridge resource management, training, or initiatives. Not necessarily unique to Tote, though, an ongoing issue throughout the industry. However, despite getting zero pushback from management a few weeks prior when he diverted for safety during Tropical Storm Erica.
See, the management isn't going to complain if you do something that's going to save their ship. Why would management hate you if you're like, hey guys, I'm going to go around this big typhoon that could destroy us and kick our ass? What, the management's going to say, oh no? No. Yeah, if they didn't complain that you're going around a tropical storm, they're not going to complain you're going around a friggin' category 3 hurricane.
The captain would email the onshore group this time at either 10:22 a.m., as the email itself shows,
We'll
or
work on it.
12:22 p.m. Sources conflict on this, with the NTSB stating 12:22 p.m. in their report. Also, the email itself states good afternoon, while timestamped as 10:22 a.m. So I'm mentioning this aspect because these are the sort of minute details I come across in these investigations that sometimes conflict, and then I'm conflicted how to present it. Or the email could have been in a queue, as they often are on ships like this, and then sent out the next time data packets are sent.
Well, that's a legitimate argument. That's a legitimate concern, I guess, from the video maker's point of view. But it's something that the investigators pick up on. And the investigation, I was going to read from the actual National Transportation Safety Board findings for what happened with the SSL Faro, but it was 400 pages long, so I decided not to do that. But these are the things that get picked up on. It's okay, Captain, you said good morning, you said good afternoon in this email, but it was only 10:19 a.m. Or you said good morning when it was afternoon. What's the problem? Because that indicates that you're not paying attention. So that's pretty sus.
Anyhow, the email would go out with standard updates about the voyage, very few updates about the hurricane's developments, the captain's intentions to continue on course, and that they were making good speed, and so on. No mention of changing course for safety's sake, like they did for Erica. In fact, further confounding the investigation was the fact the captain did add, question, I would like to transit the Old Bahama Channel on our return northbound leg to Jacksonville, Florida, period, question mark. To which management promptly responded, diversion request understood and authorized. Thank you for the heads up. Historically, the evidence proves out the captain had full authority from management to make diversions, and without posing them as a request. Joaquin had reached hurricane strength as early as 2 a.m. that same morning. Now, investigators can only speculate what was on the captain's mind, of course, in that he'd request a diversion only for their return trip to Jacksonville, while their current trajectory risked driving them directly into the storm.
Why would you think he would want to do this? What are some options? Why would a captain of a ship want to go through a Category 3 storm, but go around it on the way back? There's got to be a good reason. Think about that.
But one major difference in this journey versus those previous was evidence that the captain had recently become aware, or at least felt, that for one reason or another, his job was on the line. Davidson had made clear in the past his desire to be transferred to captain on one of Tote's newest LNG-powered ships, one of those that would soon take over the Jacksonville to San Juan run. It's reported he was declined the position on his first attempt, but was still vying for a master position on the second LNG ship. It's held amongst investigators that his motivation to deliver in San Juan at or nearly on time was now much greater than before, regardless of management's willingness to allow diversions without questioning his authority. The captain and chief mate overheard that day on the bridge discussing how they both felt as though they were, quote, in line for the chopping block. Testimony from Tote personnel pointed to the captain being made aware he was passed over in his first attempt to captain a new Marlin-class vessel. Behind the scenes, from everything I've gathered, it appeared several key members in Tote's upper management were reconsidering on his second attempt, and even preparing.
So here we go. That's the alleged motivation. He's trying to save his job. So you get there quick, you get there faster than you're supposed to. You know, you don't take extra time. So it doesn't look like you're shirking your responsibilities or being a puss. So yeah, there we go. Guy trying to look like a hot shot, trying to look like he's a superstar. That's where things start to go wrong. And boy, did they ever go wrong. Let's clear a couple of these super chats while you're. Oh, what the? Okay. Oh, okay. Korean. Otoki chineshimika. It's how are you doing in Korean? Just great. Whipplefish. We're still doing good. Typhoon on its way, or it's here, but now it's just getting worse. Friends are sending me videos from outside their house. I'm getting warnings from the warning systems. So it's starting to pick up. Brandon Lesko cleaning semen stains off chef's clothing. Hope that was worth $5, Brandon. Rose Tyrell says, thanks, Brandon Scrubwell. What is wrong with my people? My viewers and my mods, you all disgust me, but I like it. Caboose, thank you so much for the super chat. Management, you will sail through that storm and sink our $1 billion ship. You will not change course. Well, it wasn't $1 billion. It was only worth about 36 million. Same thing though, right? Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Drew Bradley, hey, Legal Devices, does a vessel this large have seat belts, or is there no point for such safety devices? Yeah, there's really no point for such safety devices like that. Sometimes you'll see some of these ships, the captain's seat will have like a safety belt or a seat belt, but the helmsman is standing up. Other people are standing up doing their job. You're always moving around on a ship, or you're in your bed. Yeah, there's not seat belts aren't a big thing. Great. You guys are degenerates, but that's why we like you. All right, let's get back to Superstar here.
Preparing an August 11 interview to give the good news in person to Davidson. However, this was on record as being halted sometime later in August or early September by Tote's Director of Labor Relations and crewing manager on the grounds that the captain was negligent in some of the El Faro's critical steel repairs, neglecting disciplinary actions towards a chief mate, caught repeatedly and blatantly sleeping on duty, and that Davidson had personality conflicts amongst teammates in the past.
Wow. So why didn't he get the job? There's a lot of things in there, but the one thing that sticks out is right here. He was negligent in some of the El Faro's critical steel repairs. Critical steel repairs. He was negligent. That affects the safety of the ship. Plus, he doesn't get along with anybody. He's sleeping on the job a lot. Yeah, he's on his way out. And this last voyage of the SS El Faro, he's taking this as his last-ditch effort to keep his job. So he's trying to be a goddamn superhero.
All of this led to Tote deciding against Davidson's transfer. But according to the evidence, they hadn't yet made him aware of this second and ultimately final rejection. It's possible being left in the dark, especially after being declined once already, led to his negative outlook toward his future at Tote Maritime.
Yeah.
The NTSB stating, quote, if the captain thought his performance on this trip would be a deciding factor in getting the job, it might have affected his decision-making. He might have been more risk-tolerant. That same morning,
wait. Go back. Adrian says, drunk? No, I'm not drunk. It just frustrates the hell out. This is what I do for a living. I deal with things like this, where you see people, as we're going to get to, spoiler alert, 33 people died because of this captain. 33 people died. This is the shit I have to deal with. When you have to deal with cases where people die and you have to assign a dollar value to their life and then argue about it with insurance companies, or if you work for the insurance company, you have to tell other lawyers and the families of the deceased why their loved one's life isn't worth a particular dollar amount. This pisses me off. This negligence, this laziness, this negligence. I mean, negligence is the only thing this negligence is what pisses me off. This accident was completely avoidable so many times as this goes down, as you'll see. It's just angry, and it angers me and it frustrates me. Sure, it puts food on my table, but I would much rather help people prevent accidents than to help them out of accidents. So yeah, this shit cost 33 people their lives. That's why I'm mad. That's why I'm getting agitated, not because of alcohol consumption.
Yunque, about 330 nautical miles southeast of El Faro, heading back to Jacksonville from San Juan, emailed Captain Davidson. Just wondering how you were doing with the hurricane out there.
Bluegrass, we haven't even
to get in front
started
of it.
yet.
It appears to be steadily intensifying and tracking to the southwest. The captain received this email at 10:02 a.m. and would respond to El Yunque at 11:08 a.m. I've been watching this system for the better part of a week. We did alter our direct route slightly more to the south, which will put Joaquin 65 nautical miles to the north of us at its CPA, or closest point of approach. Fortunately, we departed the dock in Jax on time last evening. Making 20 knots doesn't hurt either. All departments have been duly noted, and we should be on the backside by 0800 October 1st. Their course change would put them to the west of the island of San Salvador, but this would provide only a few moments of protection at most as they passed the island's lee side. Second mate Danielle Randolph wrote in an email to her mother at about 10:15 a.m.
We're heading straight into a hurricane.
She would also be overheard on the bridge around noon.
He's telling everybody down there, oh, it's not a bad storm. It's not so bad. It's not even that windy out. Seen worse. I think he's just trying to play it down because he realizes we shouldn't have come this way. Saving face.
The weather was relatively calm in their local area, but
That's the thing. And that's what we're seeing right outside my window right now. The same strength typhoon that took out this ship is happening right here outside my window now. It's not even really raining and the wind is picking up. But when one of these spiral arms hits, it's going to be on. So even if it's not raining, does not mean it's not a bad storm. It just means you're outside of one of the spiral arm rain bands.
But the hurricane was gathering strength at an alarming rate. The captain would mention how erratic Joaquin was behaving based on information he received, much of this info delayed. But in all up-to-date forecast models, the cone of uncertainty made the hurricane a significant risk along their current path. And to be clear, Joaquin did prove to be one of the most erratic on record, defying the National Hurricane Center's initial forecasts, and in general, typical Atlantic Basin hurricane behavior. But by Tuesday the 29th at 11 a.m., Advisory Number 7 from the National Weather Service and NHC showed a warning area that would potentially track to the southwest.
And mind you, this is still 2 days before they engage with the hurricane. They had 3 days to go around this thing. They had 3 days to avoid this storm. But he continued to insist on going straight through it.
From then on, the warning area followed more closely to the actual route, as it evolved from tropical storm to hurricane. The captain continually pulled forecasts and tracking data from the BVS system that was obsolete by several hours or more, instead of relying on SAT-C or other sources that investigators say would have been more timely. Yes, some of the info from warnings back on Tuesday morning would have provided conflicting information, but a full day and a half is quite a long time to reassess and ensure you're making the most informed decision. And regardless,
See, at very least, they had a day and a half to know what to do. At very least.
Joaquin was still a tropical storm as far as the El Faro knew. The Bahamas, Turks, and others always on high alert during these situations. Any vessel in open waters to their northeast must be prepared to change course and make use of the many protective lees these islands offer. The second mate and on-duty AB were discussing El Yunque on its way back to Jacksonville.
See, that's the thing. It's not like you're in the middle of the ocean and you go, holy Christ, what do we do? We have nowhere to go. You have all of these islands that you can harbor in. All of these places where you can hide from the brunt of the storm. Let's just go through.
As the ships passed each other at a distance of roughly 33 nautical miles.
They're trying to get away from the storm too,
The second mate said, the AB replying, nobody in their right mind would be driving into it.
Yeah, nobody in their right damn mind.
Yay.
70 miles south of it, the captain replied, correcting the two bridge crew, dismissing their concerns. By midday, the hurricane was producing 70-knot sustained winds. About 2:30 p.m., the bridge received 2 Securite warnings over maritime distress frequencies from Coast Guard aircraft. About as serious as warnings can get, the messages stressed hurricane warnings for the central Bahamas and that all mariners should, quote, use extreme caution. The captain did hear these and simply responded, wow, but did not change course.
Okay, now this is going to come into play a little bit later. As we've talked about before in previous videos, every ship has a black box. It has a voyage data recorder, a VDR system, where it literally records all of the radars, all of the audio on the bridge, all of the courses, all of the alarms, all of the weather, all of the displays. It's essentially the exact same thing as an airplane black box, but on a ship. So we have audio recordings from 26 hours before this ship died. So that's how we know what was being said on these ships, even though everybody died. It was recorded, and the black box, the VDR system, was recovered and analyzed. And in this case, the 26 hours of recordings was about a 500-page transcript, so I didn't read that either.
Just north of Great Abaco Island at this time, it would have been yet another opportunity to change course for one of their well-known alternate routes, the route they were nearing, known as the Northeast Providence Channel. By 4:15 p.m., the AB on duty asked if they might turn around. No, we're not going to turn around. We're not.
See, even when the lowest fucking guy on the ship is going, can we please get out of here? That's a bad thing. These guys are robots, essentially. As I know some of you here that watch these Maritime Mondays have actually been or still are in maritime related fields. You can back me up on this. ABs are essentially robots. They just do what they're told and don't ask questions. When they start saying, can we turn around? You know the shit is about to hit the fan. But no, guy's got to be a superhero and try to get that new job.
Not going to turn around, the captain barked back. About 5 p.m. and the bridge received an update on the SAT-C terminal. The National Hurricane Center provided an updated advisory. Joaquin now showed sustained winds of 75 knots and gusts up to 90 knots. By about 6:30 p.m., now 60 nautical miles from the Northeast Providence Channel entrance and 180 nautical miles northwest of Joaquin's Eye, the captain and chief mate executed their planned slight course adjustment, one that would end up leading them, unknowingly I presume, even closer to the eye of the storm than otherwise. Captain Davidson would leave the bridge at about 8 p.m., the hurricane strengthening to more than 80-knot sustained winds by this time. After he boarded the boat, he was in despair about the conditions there. He told me it was dirty and hot because the air conditioning was not working. He was happy that he had managed to get a cabin with a fan. He also said he had never seen or worked on a hulk like this. While he was working, rust was falling into his eyes. He didn't go through any training about boat safety, such as an evacuation drill. He wasn't telling me about weather conditions because he knew I was worrying a lot. During his voyage, there were 2 tropical storms I found out about only after they were over. He was trying to calm me down, telling me not to worry because the captain was prudent.
Can you imagine? The captain is just like holding shit away from you because he doesn't want you to know about it. He doesn't want you to worry about it. No, if you don't know about 2 tropical storms until they're over because the captain was keeping this information from you, that is astounding. I mean, no. We're not sinking. We're just kind of filling up the bathtub so that all of you can take baths at the same time. That's essentially what the hell is happening here. People are having concerns, and he knows they have concerns, so he's not telling them about the bad things because they'll continue to have more concerns about the safety of the vessel and the safety of their lives.
And in such situations, he would always steer in between islands, which was safer. Spouse of one of the Polish crewmen in a post-accident response. From the NTSB report, among the possible
and then it goes to the families. Like I said, this was something that one of the family members was saying.
Explanations for the captain's decision to continue on his course relates to his understanding of the circumstances, or as the NTSB puts it, his, quote, mental model. A mental model is a person's internal representation of events in the real world. Research has shown that people tend to seek confirmation of their mental models. From the beginning, the captain expected the storm to, quote, turn north, and that they would, quote, stay on the back side of it, or to the south. The NTSB went on to say, another possible explanation is that the captain could have been normalizing the risk. When someone has experienced a risky situation and emerged without harm, it's not uncommon for that person to repeat the decision or to take the same risks again.
It's not only is it not uncommon, it's more likely. I did it once and I can do it again, which is what I'm doing with this typhoon outside my window. I've been through the worst typhoon in Korea history. And now I'm going like, nothing's going to happen here. It's late and the wind's not blowing, but I'm still kind of in the back of my head nervous as shit about this. So yeah, if you do something safely once, you think you can do it again. And the more times you do it, the better you think you are at it. And then ultimately, the less you pay attention to the details. That's why they say like most traffic accidents happen within 3 miles of your home. Because you've driven that stretch of road multiple times every day. You know what's happening on the road. You're cool with the road. You know the road like the back of your hand. So you start to stop paying attention. And that's what happens here. You go through something dangerous once, cool. You do it again, cool. You do it again 3, and then you're like, hey, I got this. And then you stop paying attention. You stop giving the amount of care and control you need over the situation, and then bad shit happens.
End quote. I'd also add that it's possible a successful deviation to avoid Erica may have ended up feeling like what I'd refer to as overkill to then repeat again so soon. Like several tornado warnings in a row in the springtime. Eventually, you just start feeling annoyed, gathering the family and sitting in the basement for the 15th time. The same principle, unfortunately, can apply to complacency and workplace safety.
Now, I've told this story before. My high school was a brand new high school when I went into it. It was a 4-year high school. I never got to be king of the hill in 9th grade in middle school. I went to 7th, 8th, and then 9th through 12th suddenly got transferred to the new high school. And every day a fire alarm would go off. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a day a fire alarm would go off. There was a glitch in the fire alarm system. So every time the fire alarm goes off, everybody has to go outside. 2 or 3 times a day, everybody got to stop class, go outside. And eventually you stop paying attention to the fire alarms. And the one time that literally nobody paid attention to the fire alarm, there was actually a fire in the ceramics room, in the gas kiln, that could have blown the fuck out of the school. And nobody went outside because we were all tired of the fire drills. That's what they're saying here. The complacency in the workplace.
The same principle, unfortunately, can apply to complacency and workplace safety. All this in addition to evidence pointing at the captain continually relying on weather info delayed by hours, rather than making the effort to ensure his info was as up-to-date as possible. However, the choice to avoid Erica, though, was made so far in advance that in my summation, the caution displayed at that time didn't force the vessel into a need for absolute up-to-the-minute or critical last-minute decision-making.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, 3 days.
Which would be evidence that the captain was a man of caution in that instance, as many who knew him insist. But the voyage data recorder, or VDR, on this fateful journey proved differently, whether it was out of character for him or otherwise. That day, Davidson had also spent time equivocating and to an extent downplaying the weather they'd be up against, comparing it to what he faced during his days in Alaskan waters. He also lamented being aboard other ro-ro vessels in rough conditions in the North Atlantic as well.
Every situation is different.
That he didn't serve as captain in most of those encounters. If you're a fan of the channel, you know all too well the dangers in Alaskan waters and the North Atlantic. As deadly as those waters are, each set of circumstances is different. The ship type, size and condition, the cargo carried, the types of storms, the route options, time allotted to change course, every situation is unique. Yep. As night set in and the Faro pressed on, the bridge officers would discuss amongst themselves possible deviations, with those most concerned even calling down to the captain's quarters. He didn't return to the bridge though, just responded over the ship's phone that they need to remain on course and that he expected to not encounter the storm until about 4 a.m. at the earliest.
And this is where things start to go really, really wrong. Pretty sweet segue into his other videos. No, seriously. We got one super chat here. Fiery Red Podcast. Thank you so much for the super chat. Medics I worked with always got hurt on easy lifts. That's true. You when you're lifting the patients, and whether it's on the chair or the stretcher board things, you just get used to it. And then suddenly one day, wham, you pull your back out because you weren't paying attention. You weren't lifting with your legs. You weren't doing things properly. That's how these accidents happen. You just are so used to being in a certain situation, you start to think that you don't really have to care about it, and you just do things, and then you get hurt.
From the NTSB, the VDR transcript contains many examples of how the ship's hierarchical structure influenced the flow of communications. The helmsmen frequently voiced their concerns to the junior officers, but never in the presence of the captain.
It doesn't really feel like we're going in near a hurricane.
And again, if you heard, these are the VDR recordings. These are the black block box recordings. They have microphones all over the bridge. So they pick up all of the sounds on the bridge. And this is where these transcripts are coming from.
Captain.
It doesn't really feel like we're going in near a hurricane. When you go outside and there's hardly any wind, we're going 20 knots. I don't know. I might call the captain here shortly if he doesn't come up. I don't know how he can sleep knowing all of this.
Jesus.
Mariners, be advised. Hurricane Joaquin has been upgraded to Category 3.
Woohoo!
Oh my God.
When the second mate called down to the stateroom this time at 1:20 a.m.,
Yeah, when you've got the duty officer hearing this going, oh my God, that's not a good thing, especially if the captain's sleeping his ass off.
warning the captain of the Hurricane's upgrade to Category 3 and their path potentially running them straight through, she hung up the phone, presumably in disappointment. Turning to the AB at the helm,
He said to run it.
driving directly into the storm now, the first signs of winds and rough seas started about 1:30 a.m. as they exited San Salvador's protective lee side. 55-knot winds with 14-foot swells. The El Faro also lost a bit more speed. At 2:11 a.m., the second mate noticed waves sweeping over the bow. Green water remaining on deck, and the AB heard, quote, some clanking going on. Green water is a nautical term used to indicate a quantity of water remaining on deck after a large wave. Ship decks are designed to drain and shed water rapidly from waves, to a point, so the amount it would take to notice accumulation on a ship of this size would be significant. By 2:15 a.m., still pushing the engines at or near their maximum, average speed had dropped to about 16 knots. 35 minutes later, and the clanking had turned to a much more concerning internal thumping. The sounds of either containers falling or cargo breaking free below decks.
Yeah.
The off-course alarm rang on the bridge at about 2:54 a.m., the AB at the helm confirming they were being pushed off course by the winds and swells. The alarm was set to sound once the vessel goes off by 3 degrees. The second mate made corrections to keep El Faro on course. At 3:44 a.m., the vessel had slowed to about 13 knots. Around this time, the chief mate would arrive on the bridge to relieve the second mate. After roughly 4 minutes of discussion between the two, and still no sign of the captain, the second mate departed the bridge and sent out.
See, now how long has this been? They told the captain that they've just been upgraded to a Category 3 storm. They're in the middle of it. They're right there. The captain just says, go for it, and doesn't come to the bridge. That's the correct response, is for the captain to immediately get out of his damn bunk and go to the bridge and take command of the vessel. That's what he should have been doing, but he just keep going. And they're all going, holy crap, what's going on here?
A few emails to friends and family.
So, we are heading into the hurricane right now, full force. Tried to alter our course to avoid it, but he's on the warpath. Bad seas and really bad winds. Hope to talk to you Friday.
Hope to talk to you Friday. Even at this early point, they were seriously worried. She's saying, hope to talk to you Friday. The other guy, the duty officer, is left to go send emails to family and friends. And the captain is still fucking around.
Not sure if you have been following the weather at all, but there is a hurricane out here and we are heading straight into it. Category 3 last we checked. Winds are super bad and seas are not great. Love to everyone.
With what the crew perceived was either a broken or otherwise unreliable anemometer, and I say perceived because investigators pointed out that the voyage data recorder was able to record wind speeds. The crew had no definitive idea, or so they thought, which directions the winds were pushing and had to gauge by the relative struggles to keep the ship on course. The AB stating, "It's hard to tell which way the wind's blowing, huh? I assume we're heeling to starboard, blowing port to starboard." At 3:55 a.m., an assistant engineer from below decks came up to the bridge and reported seeing some electrical cords cut on the second deck. There were a handful of refrigerated containers on deck 2 as well, and their cables, strung about loosely throughout, were frequently disorganized and not run correctly. Vessel speed soon dropped to 10 knots. When the AB asked the chief mate about wind speed, he replied, "I don't have any idea. We don't have any."
Now, again, 10 knots. This ship was capable of 20 knots. So basically, it's sailing at half its possible speed.
Instrument that can measure it. The captain finally arrived back on the bridge at about 4:09 a.m., stating, "There's nothing bad about this ride, sleeping like a baby."
Fuck
the
off,
captain and
Captain.
chief mate agreeing, quote, "This was every day in Alaska." With the wind and waves sweeping over the vessel from port to starboard and steadily increasing in strength, the El Faro had developed a starboard list up to 15 degrees.
Yeah. 15 degrees doesn't seem like a lot until you're standing on a 15-degree list. That's a pretty significant amount. Look at a 45-degree angle. It's about a third of that. That is pretty significant when you're in a 31,000-ton thing loaded with a gabajillion, I think that's an actual number, a gabajillion tons of cargo.
All while gradually losing speed.
Ugh.
The trailers carried below decks on the Ponce-class vessels don't simply rest on their landing gear after being uncoupled from a tractor. Instead, loaders lock the kingpin and rest the nose of the trailer onto what's called a roll-lock box, with the tail of the trailer lashed to standard vehicle anchor points. The roll-lock boxes are intended to be anchored directly atop what's called a button, a socket fixed into the deck specifically for this purpose.
Yeah, these right
However,
here.
some trailers would get loaded off button due to capacity, or specifically on the El Faro, there were too few of these sockets on deck 2 for the
Nice.
amount of trailers they would carry. With the trailer landed off button, instead, the roll-lock box would get lashed down to nearby standard lashing points. After investigators calculated, the trailers loaded with heavier cargo in this manner were discovered to have been susceptible to breaking free more easily if the list was prolonged or became great enough.
Yeah, basically they're just saying that they were dealing with jury-rigged trailers.
Anywhere from at least 30 to 40 trailers were loaded in this manner, and potentially breaking free could have also caused a domino effect against any other cargo in their path. All of the Ro-Ro vehicles aboard these Ponce-class ships, and likely many others, rely, of course, on their lashings, and the trailers rely on both lashings and roll-lock boxes.
That's what holds things steady when the weather goes bad, when the ship starts rolling. The fact that they're lashed down means they shouldn't move. But if you're not lashed down to the proper places, or if you're not lashed down, shit happens, stuff starts falling around, things go bad, and this happens.
But both of these models also rely on a minimum coefficient of friction between the rubber tires and decking they're in contact with. Once water accumulates on deck enough to interfere with each tire's contact patch, any additional hold this provided is lost,
Basically,
and the lashings are
hydroplane.
then bearing at or near 100% of the load, making even a slight list to one side a larger issue. Many passenger vehicles aboard the El Faro, like the off-button trailers, were also at greater risk of breaking free due to being secured incorrectly. As this diagram illustrates, each vehicle should be lashed at all four corners, either each tire wrapped or tow-eye hooked, and then attached directly to the D-ring anchors integrated into the deck itself. However, as evidenced by the El Yunque, it was likely the El Faro utilized the same haphazard method of instead running lengths of chain between each deck anchor, likely because the deck had too few built in, and then anchoring the vehicles to those chains. It speaks for itself why these somewhat loose lengths of chain would provide much less hold than 4 anchors directly on deck. In addition, you can see the location these El Yunque photos were taken, where these cars are lashed in this half-assed manner, deep in the bottom holds.
And this is the first time I've ever heard brick and mortar say words like half-assed. I mean, this is way worse than half-assed. This is like tying things to a clothesline. There is no tension on these chains anywhere. They're loose chains, and they've got 4, 5, 6 cars chained to them. They're not locked to the anchor points. They're locked to this chain, which moves. Go ahead, hang a bunch of stuff on a clothesline and see what happens. Hang a bunch of like heavy weights or heavy hangers on a clothesline and watch what happens, especially in a windstorm.
Likely the same practice aboard El Faro. As the vessel heeled to starboard and didn't recover due to undoubtedly hours of massive sustained winds and swells blowing from port to starboard, it remains in question to this day whether seawater was already slowly accumulating below decks, seawater that could have downflooded via any of several potential paths. We'll never know for sure if or where the downflooding initiated during the starboard list, but the Marine Board of Investigation and NTSB cross-checked much of this in thorough inspections of sister ship El Yunque soon after. Keep in mind, El Yunque was similar to El Faro in many aspects, also operated, loaded, and maintained under very similar conditions. Floodwater could have slowly entered initially through potential hull breaches due to corrosion, watertight openings meant to be closed while underway, potentially left open or just not watertight due to lack of maintenance. The cargo hold ventilation system with louvered openings on the air supply blisters that led directly to bottom holds, a critical vulnerability if water were able to find its way through the baffles due to being open or otherwise rusted and not watertight. Former tow crew members testifying later that it was common practice to leave these open unless there was an actual fire in the cargo holds, even in heavy weather. In addition, downflooding created a possibility of those aforementioned vehicles breaking free down on Deck 4 and damaging emergency fire pumping, potentially early on. If so, this would lead to seawater freely flowing into this bottom compartment, also known in the industry as the seawater communicating.
Yeah. Basically, that's what
Generally
they're saying,
speaking,
James.
though, the second deck on these Ponce-class vessels is an open deck, allowing seawater in, then intended to drain or shed just as rapidly.
So that's the deal. This has like a giant ramp that goes down to the deck, and that's where you drive your vehicle on, and then you drop your container and you drive off. And as we said at the beginning of this, because they had done retrofitting on this vessel, they had expanded a deck so they could load more containers, and they added more ballast, which dropped the ship lower in the water, which meant that this opening here was much closer to the water than the original engineers of the vessel had intended it to be. And that leads to problems.
To keep this deck watertight and prevent downflooding into the holds beneath, hatches that allow crew passage via ladders between the decks, known as scuttles, need to be closed and dogged. Dogged meaning turning the crank wheel to fasten them securely. If any of these scuttles weren't watertight, once the second deck becomes swamped, water can then flood, essentially, all the way down to Deck 4, as Deck 3 was perforated for ventilation by design. Struggling to maintain course in the storm, the vessel's speed fell to 9 knots by about 4:15 a.m.
It's less than half
Being
possible
pushed
speed.
extra hard meant the engine crew had to, quote, blow the tubes several times. This was a somewhat lengthy process, and the need for it meant engine power was reduced.
It kills me, no pun intended, that I mean, all of this is going on. The ship is sailing at less than half its possible speed. All of this shit is going on, and there's still no action to try to avoid the storm.
Until the procedure was complete each time. And more importantly, the El Faro's main lubrication oil sump hadn't been maintained at the recommended 27-inch minimum fill level. Because the levels were low in the main sump, the prolonged starboard list was thought to be giving the crew and engineering intermittent problems in keeping it primed. The oil system provided the lubrication needed for the steam turbines and main reduction gear. Keeping oil flowing uninterrupted is crucial to just about any engine, really, and the El Faro's was no exception. Should oil pressure be lost entirely, it would, quote, quickly fail, and the ship would suffer an irreparable propulsion casualty.
You know when that oil light on your car goes on, it's too late. You need to keep the oil levels high. You need to keep the oil flowing through your car engine. When that oil light goes on in your car, it means your engine is screwed. It is too late if that engine oil light goes on. And that's essentially what he's saying here. If the engine light on the ship goes on, if your engine isn't being lubricated, everything locks up, and that engine is well and truly intercoursed.
Additionally, if propulsion were to be lost, typically a ship would then be adrift at the mercy of currents, winds, and waves.
And you do not want to be fucking adrift in a Category 3 typhoon.
In the El Faro's case, they'd plunged deep into a soon-to-be Category 4 hurricane. Keeping a ship like this oriented in any direction that would aid in remaining afloat requires propulsion. There's just not enough steering authority without it. Losing power, listing heavily, and going adrift is simply not a combination to make it through a storm of this magnitude.
No.
In the event of pressure loss, about 8 minutes of reserve oil would gravity feed directly into the main engine bearings. At about 4:34 a.m., the captain went to check that the galley was secured. The chief mate was soon on the phone with the chief engineer, who mentioned seeing a trailer leaning over on deck 2, forward of the bridge, and a few moments later informed them of issues with the, quote, list and oil levels. With the captain back on the bridge at 4:43 a.m., he ordered the vessel turn northward.
See, and now it's already listing to starboard. It's already tilting to the right. And the wind and the waves are now blowing it that way. What's that going to do? It's just going to make it list more. It's just going to make it tilt more that direction.
Directly into the wind to help take the list off. The oil sumps are acting up, he said as he took the con. The vessel's speed dropped to about 7.
So the vessel speed is now 1/3 of its normal speed. It's listing to the right. The engine is not getting enough oil. Why is that? Because everything is over here. It's like we talked about. All of the ballast water goes over here. All of the oil goes over here. All of the fuel oil goes over here. And if you have a pump that's on the port side or the left side of the vessel, if everything is pooled over on the right side, that left side is not pumping oil into the engine. It's just sucking air. And then your engine is going to lock up. And then you're fucked. And that's essentially what's happening here. Everything is tilted to starboard, tilted to the right. I know it looks to the left to you, but everything is tilted this way. And the pump is sucking air. The oil pump for the engine is sucking air.
7.5 knots. The captain went below again soon after to check the BVS and SAT-C weather updates. Getting conflicting reports, he said, returning to the bridge at about 5:02. The captain had downloaded info via BVS, likely out of date once again. This time by about 12 hours.
Jesus.
Weather reports from that previous afternoon. The SAT-C terminal recently received advisories and updates on the storm's position, more accurate to real time, and showed sustained winds of 105 knots, gusts of 130, and based on the El Faro's current position, Joaquin's eye was now only 11 miles southeast. An update was made available by the BVS system at 5:03 a.m. with this more current info, but the captain wouldn't end up downloading this until about an hour later. The experienced tote engineer supervising the Polish riding crew appeared on the bridge about 5:10 a.m., concerned about the situation, especially after he'd heard, quote, things slapping around on deck 2. I've never seen it list like this. I've never seen it hang like this.
Because it's not supposed to. That's why you've never seen it before. The ship's not supposed to be listing 15 degrees plus in any direction.
He said, also aware of the low oil pressure situation, he explained the importance of listing affecting oil pressure. About 5:15 a.m., the vessel's speed now down to 5.8 knots.
That's about 1/4 of the vessel's normal speed, normal top speed.
The list 18 degrees to starboard.
Oh, it's getting worse.
Captain
How nice.
Davison overheard saying, only going to get better from here. We're on the back side of it.
No, we're not.
At 5:30 a.m., the chief mate mentioned taking on water on the stern. And
this is where the catastrophe begins. 5:30 a.m. They're starting to take on water from the back of the vessel. Now they've got to take some immediate action or the ship is doomed. They're taking on water in the middle of a Category 3, very, very, very soon to be upgraded to Category 4. A hurricane, sorry, they're in the Atlantic.
And about 10 minutes later, speed had decreased to just over 4 knots. Soon after, the captain received an urgent call about water in hold 3 and yelled out to the bridge crew, "We got cars loose." "So where's the water from? Are we able to pump the bilges?" The chief mate asked engineering from another phone. "The only way to do a counter on this is to fill the port side ramp tank up." The captain, referring to the aft deep tanks, wanted these bottommost tanks transferred from starboard to port in an effort to correct the list, or heal. The chief mate left the bridge with the radio to get eyes on the flooding and hold.
Did I miss it? That's what she said, joke.
At 5:52 a.m., the captain received word from below decks that the source of down flooding was a wide open scuttle on deck.
One correct thing that happened was this. They turned into the storm. That's the direction you want to be going. You want to be going into a storm, not being perpendicular to the storm. If you're running perpendicular to the storm, you're going to flip the ship.
Deck 2. He ordered the El Faro to come about even further now, to a heading of 350 degrees, and put the wind directly on the starboard side, a maneuver intended to enable crew access to the flooded side of Deck 2, where the unsecured starboard scuttle was now underwater.
This is not a good thing.
From the NTSB, because the suction for the lubricating oil service pump was located in the starboard aft section of the sump, a port list with a forward trim would be the worst case scenario for exposing the suction bell mouth, which would result in a loss of lubricant.
That's what I just talked about. They were listing to starboard, so they pulled the fucking ship around so it would list to starboard, and that exposed the oil pump. Now you're sucking air. You're not getting any oil into the engine, and of course, the predictable thing happens.
Lubricating oil to the main engine. This decision by the captain would unfortunately remove what little possibility the El Faro had to stay afloat.
Fuck you, Captain. Seriously.
The already intermittent power from the struggling engine now put at further risk as the port list moved the oil sump tank into the worst orientation possible, soon to lose prime and oil pressure entirely, putting the engine at risk of catastrophic failure amongst critical moving parts relying on lubrication. Hold 3 was now flooded by up to 20%. This, combined with the transfer of ballast from starboard to port in the aft tanks just prior to their turn. "I think we just lost the plant," the captain was heard saying at about 6:10 a.m., as the vessel's forward speed was now non-existent.
6:10, they lose the engine. Why'd they lose the engine? Because the captain turned the ship 180 degrees and exposed the oil pump to the space where there was no oil. Great. He's fucked the engine. It's a dead ship at 6:10 a.m.
The only speed registering on radar and the VDR's parametric data was due to being pushed around by the conditions. By about 6:15 a.m. October 1st, fully engulfed by a raging hurricane, adrift and surrounded by open ocean 15,000 feet deep, this tired, rusted hulk of a cargo ship was put into what many would consider the worst-case scenario imaginable.
Yeah, it gets worse. How does it get worse? It gets worse. Beth Varley, thank you so much for the super chat. How about the Coast Guard failure that they had all the deficiencies but didn't tell them because they were too busy glad-handing industry before notifying them? Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. You know, the owner has to be responsible for the deficiencies. Well, not unfortunately. I think the owner should have just been fucked for this, but we'll get to the aftermath here in a bit. Did insurance approve the claim? We'll get into the aftermath here in a bit. Hang on.
The portside list would quickly exceed that of the previous list to starboard.
Remember,
for the next roughly 45 minutes, the captain would be
starboard.
speaking over the phone with engineering and potentially others below decks, ordering the now full aft tanks on the port side transferred back over to starboard, and ordering...
So remember when it was listing to starboard, he wanted all the ballast to go to the port tanks. So then it went to port and he turned the ship around. Now he's like, holy fuck, let's go back to the way it was before. This is a captain who doesn't understand what to do. He's lost. He's grasping at straws. He's just back and forth.
Quote, everybody up to the bridge and going back and forth over the phone with the engine room. They're going to get that boiler back up online any second.
No, they're not.
He stated in one of his calls. El Faro's bow was pointed northwest as the sun rose, but the ship was actually traveling southwest at about 6.7 knots.
How's that? The ship's going fucking sideways. They wanted to go northwest. It's going southwest because of the wind. The engines are dead. You're done.
Being pushed sideways by wind and waves. The ship's radar had also been knocked out by the storm around this time as well. At 6:59 a.m., the first indication of any distress was via voicemail left by the captain.
Now, this is 6:59. I want to go back a little bit. This is a little glean tidbit from the VDR, from the Voyage Data Recorder audio on the bridge. There was a phone call, 6:54 a.m. Who did the phone call go to? Sorry, real quick here. Yeah, this went to the captain. It's miserable right now. We got the all the winds on the starboard side here. Now a scuttle was left open or popped open or whatever. So we got some flooding down in hold 3, a significant amount. Everybody's safe right now. We're not going to abandon ship. We're going to stay with the ship. We're in dire straits right now. Okay. I'm going to call the office and tell them something unintelligible. Okay. There's no need to ring the general alarm yet. We're not abandoning ship. The engineers are trying to get the plant back. So we're working on it. Okay. There you go.
Their quote, designated person ashore, or DPA, had told its offices.
Captain Davidson, Thursday morning, 0700. We have a navigational incident. I'll keep it short. A scuttle popped open on deck, and we were having some free communication of water go down the three.
A free communication of water means water is fucking pouring into the ship.
Had a pretty good rest. I want to just touch it, contact you verbally here. Everybody's safe, but I want to talk to you.
The El Faro's assigned DPA was actually out of the office for a few days. In addition, according to investigators, no other shoreside tow personnel were actively monitoring El Faro's position in relation.
See, and the owners, you've got a ship that's in the middle of a goddamn hurricane, and you're not even paying attention to where it is. The owners are even screwed up on this.
To the hurricane. About 5 minutes later, and he then phoned TOT's emergency call center, the captain asking for a QI, or qualified individual.
The clock is ticking. Can I please speak with a QI? I have a marine emergency, and I would like to speak to a QI. We had a hull breach. A scuttle blew open during a storm. We have water down in 3 holes with a heavy lift. We've lost the main propulsion unit. The engineers cannot get it going. Can I speak with a QI, please?
Yes, thank you so much. One moment.
While the captain was on the line with corporate, the chief engineer called up to the bridge again, and the second...
Okay, let's stop it here again and go back through... Oh, hang on. I just got a text from one of my friends that lives further down the beach, said that there's inaudible warnings going on the beach, which are basically right here outside my window now. They're giving the don't be an idiot and get out of the beach areas, get off the bridge, go home messages. But I want to go back to the VDR data. What you just heard was sort of a limited transcript of what happened on the call with the corporate office looking for someone who is qualified to do something. Here's actually what was going on. Let me bring this up, and I hope I'm not a boomer. I did this 5 times the other night. I brought myself up, and then I forgot to bring the video back up when I started the video, so hopefully I won't do that again. So 7:06 a.m., the captain makes a phone call and says, I have a marine emergency, and I would like to speak with a QI. QI is a qualified individual, basically a decision maker at corporate. We have a hull breach. Scuttle blew open during the storm. We have water down in hold 3. We have a heavy list. We've lost the main propulsion unit. The engineers cannot get it going. Can I speak with a QI, please? We have secured the source of water coming into the vessel. A scuttle was blown open. It's since been closed. However, number 3 hold has got a considerable amount of water in it. We have a very, very healthy port list, which means we're listing to the left side. We're tilting to the left side like a mofo. We have a very healthy port list. The engineers cannot get lube pressure on the plant. Therefore, we've got no main engine. And let me give you a latitude and longitude. I just want to give you a heads up before I push that button. The crew is safe. Right now, we're trying to save the ship now, but all available hands, we are 48 miles east of San Salvador. We're taking every measure to take this list off. By that, I mean pump out that hold the best we can, but we're not gaining ground at this time. Yeah, Faladay says legal advice. You sound more panicked now than the caller says it all, really. Yeah, he was we don't have the audio. We just have the transcript. So I'm probably making it sound more panicked than he was. We'll do it in calm captain voice for the remainder of this. The crew is safe. Right now, we're trying to save the ship now. But all available hands, we're 48 miles east of San Salvador. We're taking every measure to take the list off. By that, I mean pump out that hold as best we can, but we're not gaining ground at this time. Right now, it's a little bit hard to tell because all the wind is on that side too. So we get a good wind heel going, but it's not getting any better. We're going to stay with the ship. No one's panicking. Everybody's been made aware. Our safest bet is to stay with the ship during this particular time. The weather is ferocious out here, and we're going to stay with the ship. Swell is out of the northeast, a solid 10 to 12 overspray, high winds, very poor visibility. That's news and weather on the 9s. Back to you, Doug and the wacky crew. Sorry, I added that last part. But yeah. Basically, it was they were probably less concerned than I was when I was reading it. I was reading that as someone who actually knew they were fucked. I don't know if the captain knew they were fucked at that point. So, all right, I just about boomered out again. Let's bring this back up.
Mate, back on the bridge now, answered, heard telling him,
The wind is pushing us over. There's nothing we can do from up here.
She also suggested moving more ballast. Toad's emergency phone number was available 24 hours a day, but investigators discovered later personnel at these numbers weren't even trained in heavy weather scenarios or similar emergencies, like loss of stability, fire at sea, or vessel grounding. However, at the same time, Toad's emergency response manual included only 2 categories in which to utilize the call center: oil spill response and security emergencies. There were no instructions that investigators found regarding adverse weather, flooding, loss of stability, cargo shifting, or abandoned ship.
So they didn't even have anyone that was qualified to answer this. And to go back to some more stuff that was caught on the VDR data, 4 minutes after the non-panicky thing that I just read, the master, the captain of the ship, was explaining that this big list to port was due mainly because of the wind. It was, but a lot of that's due to the wind heel. And he said they were going to be making a distress call to the Coast Guard. And then he told the second officer, the second mate, to activate the ship security alert system and the global maritime distress and safety system, and directed the rest of the crew wake up. Now, the security alert system and the global distress safety system, that is when you start alerting satellites to your position, and they can track where you are and notice what's going on. (7:15), 5 minutes later, the chief officer comes back to the bridge, and this was a conversation that was on the bridge. Chief mate, I think the water level's rising, Captain. Remember, there's water in hold number 3. Captain, okay. Do you know where it's coming from? Chief mate, well, at first, the chief said something hit the fire main, got it ruptured hard. So at first they thought it was like the fire suppression lines ruptured, and it was just the water from the fire hoses coming in. Captain, there's no way to secure that. Chief mate, well, we don't know if they still have any pressure on the fire main or not. Don't know where's C between the C suction and the hole or what, but anything I say is a guess. So basically nobody knows what's going on. and they continued to try to figure out what's going on. At 7:24 a.m., the captain is saying we still have reserve buoyancy and stability. It's not dead yet. The bow is down. The bow is down. So the bow is at this point either near or underwater. The front of the ship is either near or underwater at 7:24. Let's get back to the video.
Tote's shortcomings aside, and despite their many areas needing better training and improvement, in the moment, it is ultimately a shipmaster's responsibility to ensure the safety of their vessel.
Yep.
The second mate was finally instructed by the captain to send out distress messages at 7:12 a.m. She'd actually prepared them at 6:31 a.m., but awaited the captain's approval to send. These messages...
The emergency "we're fucked" messages were prepared 45 minutes before they were told to send the message "we're fucked."
Contained reports of flooding, cargo adrift, time, and vessel position, and went out via the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System and Ship Security Alert System, both using satellite and digital protocols.
Which I just...
The distress messages were received by the U.S. Coast Guard Atlantic Area Command Center in Portsmouth, Virginia. Still struggling with damage control and insisting up until about 7:15 a.m. they were, quote, going to be fine, the captain wouldn't ring the general alarm until 7:26 a.m. The port side had been swamped as the list grew to 20-plus degrees. The water line was well over all of what would have been potential downflooding openings on this side, overwhelmed and pouring in like a dam giving way.
Yeah, because they have all of these vents, all of these openings. And once it gets below the water line, the water pours in, and that's the end.
With reports of cars floating, quote, bobbing around in hold 3, the chief mate reporting, quote, something hitting the fire main on deck 4, reports of water chest deep on deck 2, even reports of water sloshing in the engine room now, pouring in through ventilation ducts. The engineering team was scrambling to pump out hold 3, keep up with the bridge's orders to transfer ballast back
That's hold 3 there. They're trying to pump out, but it's not working.
and forth between the aft tanks, dewater the engineering compartment now, stay in contact with the bridge, and all the while struggling to get the engine itself back online. At about 7:25 a.m., a representative from Tote called the Coast Guard Atlantic Area Command Center to report El Faro's situation. The command center he reached passed the info along to Coast Guard District 7 Command Center in Miami, Florida. Based on the info provided, District 7 Command Center returned the Tote representative's call to update him.
Can you tell me what the plans, what are you planning on doing now?
So right now, based off of all the information that you've provided me, I'm not in the distress phase currently because they're not at risk of sinking.
Since the ship had reached the point of no return, mustering should have taken place quite some time before this point. The captain's insistence on either his mental model still carrying them through, or otherwise just not understanding the full extent of damage and urgency.
Remember, that mental model is how the captain perceives the situation. If the captain is an incompetent jackass, he's going to be looking at the situation through the eyes of an incompetent jackass.
Meant they were still aboard, far too late in the process. In addition, the unfortunate, neglected state of this vessel didn't stop at engine oil and a rusty superstructure. Safety equipment and training on board was also seen as something of an afterthought. There were 2 open-style lifeboats on gravity davit launchers, an obsolete style of lifeboat only allowed, at least by U.S. regulations, to be used on ships constructed before July 1986.
Yeah, these soft, shitty things. And they're only allowed on ships constructed before 86. If you remember, this ship was originally constructed in 1975. So these shitty little floating soft, they're floating tents is basically what they are. They were allowed.
And 4 25-person life rafts, 2 on each side near the lifeboats. In the ship's state, though, the starboard side group would have been inaccessible due to the ship's list. Attempting to release either, it would be a deadly tumble down the raised, tilted side.
Yep.
The port side group would have needed to be accessed early on before becoming submerged. Either that or boarded after individuals swim clear of the sinking ship. And that's if the life vessels release and or inflate on their own, as intended when submerged. Immersion suits were located in each crew member's berth along with spares in the engine room, at the bow, and internal storeroom. A former Polish riding crew member from an earlier voyage, described in an interview later how they were never instructed in donning immersion suits, their location, or emergency procedures in general. When the tote riding crew supervisor called up to the bridge, he had just taken a look down into Hold 3 through the scuttle above. Extremely concerned, he asked the captain what their downflitting angle was. I don't have an answer. I mean, we still got reserve buoyancy and stability. This was around 7:25 a.m., the ship 14 minutes away from being completely submerged. The captain then notified the rest of the ship that he'd be ringing the general.
Release the flying monkeys. At least they could save them. Now, if you've been paying attention, there was some flying space monkeys in some Dungeons and Dragons games, and Dungeons and Dragons apologized today because their flying monkeys were racist. But that is totally outside the scope of our show today. Maybe we'll talk about it with Legal Mindset on Wednesday. But yeah, do something for God's sake. Do something.
Alarm, but to not immediately abandon, and then telling the chief mate to, quote, make sure that everyone has their immersion suits. Keep in mind, in engineering especially, abandoning takes much longer as they need to make their way up 3 to 4 decks. Where are my emergency contact numbers? The captain yelled to the second mate.
Hanging up by the chair.
The captain, apparently still focused on making emergency calls via phone. We got containers in the water, he yelled soon after, noticing the mayhem just outside.
Yeah, if you've got containers on the deck of your ship that are in the water, you're done. You're way past the point of no return. Hang up the fucking phone and get off the ship.
There was a sudden scramble for the next few minutes on the bridge amongst officers trying to find life preservers and immersion suits. The second mate was the first to ask if she could go fetch life preservers. She'd apparently memorized their nearest location to the bridge. It's unknown if she was referring to gathering immersion suits or just life vests. The captain shouting in the meantime, where are the life preservers? Here? Where are the life preservers on the bridge?
How the fuck can the captain of the damn ship not know where the life jackets on the bridge are? You're the goddamn captain of the ship, and you don't know where the lifeguards, where the life jackets next to your seat are? You don't know where they are on the bridge?
Bridge. I'm a goner, the AB cried. No, you're not, the captain yelled and followed up. It's time to come this way. These were the final words overheard by the voyage data recorder when it ceased recording at 7:39 a.m., Thursday, October 1st. VDRs cease recording data and audio once their vessel is submerged. Their protective capsule, designed to withstand extreme pressure, shock, impact, and heat, either releasing it to float freely away from the vessel or the entire unit breaking free in hopes to get clear. The El Faro's VDR was the latter type, breaking away but not floating. Instead, similar to a black box on an airplane, an archive of data for investigators to comb through only once it's recovered in the wreckage. The Emergency Position Indicating Radio Beacon, or EPIRB, operates on a similar premise in that it breaks free once the vessel is submerged. However, these are designed to float and begin transmitting, or pinging, to satellites in low Earth orbit.
And these things ping to the satellites, and that as soon as the satellites pick that up, this pinging from these emergency beacons, that immediately initiates a rescue operation. That's when groups like the Coast Guard, the Civil Air Patrol, and stuff like that get involved.
The El Faro's version of EPIRB, designed to give rescuers a position with only roughly 2 miles accuracy. Low Earth orbit satellites aren't everywhere at all times, though, and the next one to pass over, within view, would be about 30 minutes after pinging started.
Wow.
The EPIRB only transmitted for about 24 minutes.
Could anything worse go wrong? You have an old EPIRB that's transmitting to a satellite for 24 minutes. Only 24 minutes. But it takes a satellite 30 minutes to get over you.
In addition, The approximate 500-mile wide storm was not letting up, reaching Category 4 status around the same time, with sustained winds of 115 knots. Unfortunately, the storm was so dangerous and loitered so long in the general area that immediate rescue just wouldn't be possible. The only craft able to deploy toward the last known position, a position provided by the emergency calls and messages, were the Hurricane Hunters. Of their 2 overflights, around roughly 10:30 a.m.,
these guys are insane. These are like the tornado storm chasers. These are guys who just fly into hurricanes and typhoons because.
Reportedly no lower than 10,000 feet due to weather. No visual assessment was possible, and all radio callouts to El Faro went unanswered. At 11:06 a.m., Coast Guard Command requested the nearest vessel, Emerald Express, render assistance and proceed to El Faro's last known coordinates.
So it's already been 4
Emerald
hours.
Express, simply a modified landing craft, understandably refused.
Yeah, this little fucker that can carry like 4 containers is told to go into the remains of the typhoon and look for this ship. And like, yeah, don't think so, buddy. Don't think we're going in there.
As they were having struggles of their own in just trying to ride out the storm in the lee of Acklands and Crooked Islands. They attempted several callouts to the stricken vessel, though, the Express and Hurricane Hunter, hearing each other's radio calls, but nothing from El Faro. The hurricane would loiter and gain strength over the next day and a half, reaching sustained wind speeds of 130 knots. No one, not even the U.S. Coast Guard, as brave as their rescue crews are, dared to get within less than 100 nautical miles of the last known position. Those that tried, the Coast Guard C-130, making the closest attempt that day, flying at 3,000 feet and getting within 100 nautical miles of El Faro's last known position on the morning of Friday, October 2nd. The aircraft sustained damage due to the weather, and leaking fuel had to return to base in Florida. At 9:05 a.m., Coast Guard Command would cancel all planned El Faro search and rescue sorties for the remainder of Friday. The Coast Guard explaining that even if they did send an MH-60 helicopter, their only method of retrieving survivors at the current time, the helicopter crew would be flying into near 140-knot winds. This would mean the aircraft would only be traveling at an actual speed of 40 knots, for example. In addition, there was no visual aid coming from the C-130s or Hurricane Hunters, due to drift, wind, and waves carrying any potential survivors away from the last known position. No one yet knew precisely where to look. Throughout Friday, though, the Coast Guard would gather the following initial resources in preparation for when the storm subsided. Cutter Northland sent to the U.S. Naval Base at Guantanamo Bay for fueling and provisions. 3 MH-60s throughout the Bahamas, Turks, and Andros Islands, staged and waiting. The Coast Guard C-130s already prepped and awaiting redeployment. Other resources that would eventually aid in the search: U.S. Coast Guard cutters Resolute and Charles Sexton, a U.S. Coast Guard C-144 and MH-65 Dolphin, a U.S. Air Force C-130 and J-Stars aircraft,
if you survive, rescue
along with
still
the U.S.
isn't
Navy
coming
P-8
for a while.
Poseidon. After 7 sorties, once weather permitted, totaling 28 hours worth of searching on Saturday, October 3rd, battling the still difficult weather conditions left in Joaquin's wake, no sign of survivors were found. A Hurricane Hunter spotted initially a large oil sheen and 2 debris fields northeast of Crooked Island. An MH-60 spotted an El Faro life ring amidst debris comprised of mostly packaging materials in the first debris patch. The next day, Sunday, October 4th, Cutter Northland arrived on scene at about 1 p.m. and assumed the duty of on-scene command. 3 tugboats chartered by Tote arrived to assist, and El Yunque, returning to San Juan from Jacksonville, would aid in search as they transited the area as well, recovering another El Faro life ring.
Yeah, when that's all you're recovering, that ain't good.
The Navy's P-8 Poseidon spotted what they reported was 2 life rafts, one of which turning out to actually be the El Faro's starboard lifeboat. The Northland arrived at the first, about 18 nautical miles from El Faro's last known position. The ship's rescue swimmer approached, only to discover the life raft was empty. Cutter North.
Yeah, see how flimsy these freaking inflatable life rafts are. That is not gonna withstand a Category 4 typhoon.
Northland would sink the empty life raft to prevent rediscovery confusion. A tugboat of Tote Maritime's chartered fleet then approached the starboard lifeboat, Floating bow pointed up, the tug was too small to recover it. Tote would charter support vessel Megan Bale to haul it up and deliver it to the port of Miami for Coast Guard inspection. Investigators concluding, through interviews with the boat's manufacturer, that the damage was, quote, indicative of a fall and not of a lifeboat actually being released. At 4:57 p.m. on Sunday, October 4th, the P-8 Poseidon spotted a bright orange immersion suit about 40 nautical miles west-northwest of the El Faro's last known position. An MH-60 crew used the info and located the suit about an hour and a half later. Their rescue swimmer found it contained human remains in an advanced state of decomposition, too far along for the swimmer to determine identity or even gender. However, before they could haul the victim up, an urgent call came through that the Poseidon crew discovered another immersion suit about 30 nautical miles away. This time, the Poseidon thought they may have also seen a person in the suit waving their arms. The MH-60 crew pulled up their rescue swimmer and dropped a self-locating datum marker buoy in hopes to later retrieve them. The helo crew proceeded as quickly as possible to the location of the potential survivor, but they were unable to locate them, unfortunately.
Ugh.
And as night was falling, they attempted to return to the marker for the deceased sailor, but the marker had failed to transmit properly, and they were unable to relocate the victim. On the morning of Day 5, October 5th, the U.S. Air Force's JSTARS, or Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar System aircraft, was able to conduct detailed, high-altitude sweeps of about 19,300 square miles at a time. This crew provided confirmation of all debris fields and that there were no large vessels to be found in the search area. This gave the Coast Guard the confirmation they needed to declare the El Faro had sunk and that it was now considered a major marine casualty. As conditions continued to improve, the P-8 Poseidon crew were able to fly lower and lower in search of smaller objects. At an altitude of 2,500 feet, the Navy aircraft was crucial in spotting 3 more El Faro life rings. These flotation devices then recovered by Cutter Resolute and the tugboat Sentry. Tuesday, Day 6, October 6th, as the search continued by multiple resources in the area, the cutter Charles Sexton recovered an empty immersion suit stenciled El Faro. Wednesday, October 7th, 7 days in, after searches again from 8 a.m. to sunset, the Charles Sexton retrieved another empty immersion suit, but there were otherwise still no significant sightings. The search would officially be suspended that evening. Survival time in these conditions was estimated to be 120 hours, and would-be rescuers had reached the 154-hour mark since the time of sinking. 50 air and surface sorties covering 195,601 square miles. The ship had gone down in waters 15,000 feet or nearly 3 miles deep, eliminating the possibility of rescue diving altogether. Wednesday, October 14th, 2015, the Coast Guard Sector Commander in Jacksonville, Florida, declared all 33 persons on board the El Faro missing and presumed deceased.
Absolutely unnecessary. This whole thing was avoidable 3 days before it happened. Utterly unnecessary loss of 33 lives.
Another victim of Hurricane Joaquin was the MV Minuche. Reports are scant on this one, but the Minuche was reportedly a 212-foot cargo vessel that developed a major list in the storm off the coast of Haiti on October 1st at about 10 p.m. Fortunately, the reported 12 crew, some reports say 14 to 15, were able to abandon the ship safely and were rescued by a U.S. Coast Guard cutter that was diverted, sending their helicopter out to retrieve all survivors from their life raft. How was the body so quickly decomposed? On what looks to be the same night, 2 a.m.
It was a few
October
days.
2nd.
Probably fish,
This area of the
sharks.
Caribbean was much less deadly than the El Faro's last known position. Still a harrowing rescue nonetheless. In order to make the El Faro findings possible, it was a painstaking 2-year cooperative investigation between the NTSB, the Coast Guard, their Marine Board of Investigation, Tote Maritime, family members, former colleagues, Jacksonville San Juan port personnel, the list goes on. The El Faro was at a depth too great to inspect thoroughly, but with the help of U.S. Navy ship Apache, with a ping locator, side-scan sonar, and remote-operated vehicle, Curve 21, they could at least get started. The Apache would arrive on October 23rd, with first priority being to ping locate the voyage data recorder. The design of El Faro's VDR Minute should have been pinging with its acoustic beacon for this reason, but they heard nothing. It wasn't until October 31st that they finally located some of the wreckage via side-scan sonar. The debris field was vast, with the main vessel structure sitting upright on the bottom. Upon closer inspection, though, they discovered the entire bridge and mast were missing. This was a problem because the VDR was atop the bridge near the mast. Curve 21's video footage was crucial to much of the investigation, but the Apache needed to depart on November 15th. The VDR and ship's bridge still yet to be found. The NTSB needed a dynamic positioning vessel, one that could stay on station even in bad weather, and both remotely survey and stream live to NTSB headquarters complex underwater search operations. In a joint investigation including the University of Rhode Island's Inner Space Center, the NTSB, Verizon, and the National Oceanographic Laboratory System, the research vessel Atlantis would be available in April of 2016. Their ROV Sentry was able to expand on Apache's previous findings and located both the missing bridge mast and VDR nearby. A third mission, though, in August of 2016 was required to actually retrieve the VDR. The Apache returned with Curve 21, refitted this time, and successfully hauled up the voyage data recorder. El Faro's VDR provided the evidence needed to...
See, that's nearly a year later. They didn't get the VDR until nearly a year later. Again, that's exactly the same as recovering a airplane's black box a year after the accident happened.
Find out what really happened, leading up to and on that fateful October morning. The El Yunque also provided crucial evidence needed, as that vessel had its own long, well-concealed story to tell of neglect and half measures. The El Yunque coming under Coast Guard inspection and audit in February of 2016. Crucial to the investigation, but also found to be out of compliance. Permanent repairs were ordered to Cargo Hold 3.
Yeah, there looks to be a little rusting involved here in this piece of shit ship.
Ventilation ducts within 30 days due to excessive corrosion. The El Yunque soon transferred to Seattle by tote for its planned conversion back to Alaska service in March. It was audited again by the Coast Guard traveling inspectors, finding even more deficiencies and half measures that they just could not overlook. Uncorrected wastage, more corrosion, even in the ventilation ducts to the cargo hold still. Tote gave up and scrapped El Yunque, the Anvil, by August of 2016. This video has gotten extremely long, so I will be following up with an episode to expand upon the safety recommendations that came as a result, along with some other crucial lessons learned and more. In closing, although investigators will likely never fully conclude where the downflooding initiated, due to the ship's overall condition being allowed to deteriorate for years, which wasn't exactly a secret, lacking safety culture, equipment, and emergency training, lacking adherence to watertight integrity, proper cargo arrangement, securing and overall stability needs, due to an ongoing demanding schedule of the Ponce fleet, while personnel turmoil and shifting company priorities left the vessels with overworked onshore and onboard crews, due to poor culture and working environments that discouraged teamwork and a captain unwilling to engage in bridge resource management, due to poor navigational decision-making both in overall route and in response to conditions, due to the captain's several hours of blatant indifference through the night of September 30th into the early hours of October 1st. By the time the El Faro plunged directly into Hurricane Joaquin, the staggering amount of links in this years-long chain of failure were so firmly in place that the chances of making it through a Category 4 storm were slim to none. As the El Yunque passed over the El Faro's last known position during a routine voyage, 10 days after sinking on October 11, 2015, a small memorial was held by the crew. Lighthouse-style El Faro memorials can be found near the Dames Point Park in Jacksonville and along the waterfront in the port of San Juan.
Those are the 33 people on the ship. All of this was completely avoidable. You get a little bravado.
Supporters of this channel help make content like this possible, And a special thanks goes out to those top-tier Patreon supporters: Paul R., Nathan F., Lil Tony, Kenneth P., Jeremy H., Jenny E., Dr. Jen, Andrew M., and Alex W. Don't forget, you're important and your safety matters.
And again, this is from Brick Immortar. Please go to his channel and subscribe. Absolutely amazing, amazing content. That's where we are today, man. That's the end of the El Faro. 33 people died because a captain was fucking around, wasn't paying attention to details, was going in through a typhoon to try to save his job and to try to get a better job with the company. This is what happens when you don't do what you're supposed to do. You get lax with safety. You get lax with regulations. You get lax with the rules. They don't apply to you. You don't need to do them. You get comfortable. Never get comfortable in what you're doing, because then you start not paying attention, and then 33 people are dead. So that's our Maritime Monday for today. That was the El Faro disaster from 2015. I'm getting tons of messages from the safety alert people. The typhoon is now. Let me take out one of my earphones here to see if I can hear anything different. Turn off my fan. Still not a lot of wind. I'm not hearing a lot of wind or rain outside, but just got a notification that the bridge outside my window is closed. So they've closed the bridge. It's pitch black outside the window. It's going to be increasingly bad as time goes by. I'm going to be going out throughout the night taking videos and things, and I'll keep you posted as much as I can. If there's anything that happens, I'll keep you up to date on what's going on. We've got a couple of super chats to clear here. First, Drew Bradley, thank you so much. Thank you. I really do enjoy your content and expertise. An inside scoop of these helps with my fear of boating. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. And see, I have a friend, a dear, dear, dear friend who's been a friend for a bajillion years. And he's a sailor. I won't go on his boat because he doesn't have insurance and he doesn't wear life jackets. I'm a lawyer. Everything I do, I think of the worst possible scenario. So I'm not going to go I'm not going to go sailing with him until he has insurance and at least some good life jackets. So just take care. When you're on ships, know where your life jackets are, follow the rules, follow the procedures, and you should be okay. Should be. Fail a day. I'll get you my pretty in your little boat too. Yeah, it's that would have been more timely if we were back there at that particular part of the show. Luke Pearson says, yeah, if you're so fucked, what's the best way to go out in the situation? Well, that's a grim thought. I don't know. I would probably go out fighting. I mean, you don't have, firearms on guns normally to just, I'm done. I'd probably go out fighting. I don't know. That's something to think about. Legal Vices, I was looking up the origin of port and starboard some years ago and was shocked when I learned it used to be larboard and starboard. That is correct. Starboard and port usually meant the port side of the vessel was the side that was berthed on the port, and starboard was the side that was open to the ocean or the stars. So starboard was towards the stars, port side was towards the port. But way back in the day, it used to be larboard, like the landward side, like land. So the land side and the star side. So yeah, that's used to be larboard and starboard. So hey, cool for noticing that. Outpost Nerd says, Legal Vices, my dad's, and welcome Outpost Nerds. It's always good to have some legends and heavy hitters here. My dad sailed boats and took us out on the water all through my childhood, and the first thing he always did was check the life vest. Yeah, I go out paddle boarding with my friends, and they think I'm a big pussy because I insist on wearing a life jacket. Maybe I'm a pussy, but if something goes horribly wrong, I'll be a live pussy. That's all I have to say. Wearing a motorcycle, riding a motorcycle. I don't care if it was 100 degrees in August or September. I would still wear full leather jacket, leather boots, helmet. Just it's all the as they say in the motorcycle world, all the gear all the time. You don't need it until you do. That's just the thing about safety. Better safe than sorry. It might be uncomfortable. It might not be cool. It might not look glamorous, but you're going to be fucking alive if something goes wrong. The chances of something going wrong may be very, very slim, but they're not zero. And that's kind of how I live my life, on the safe side of things. Alan Tempest said, please read my last message to you. All right, Alan, what was your last message? Scroll. Alan Tempest, scroll. Alan Tempest, I don't see your last message. Legal advices. After you finish the stream, and if it gets bad there tonight, please go live so we know you're safe. Yeah, if something major happens or if it gets really cool, then I will. But what I plan on doing is for the rest of the night, as the storm gets worse and worse, just going around, taking some videos out the window, maybe going outside and walking around a bit, taking some video, and then compiling it into a thing and uploading it. But right now we're at 2 hours and 40 minutes into this. I need to learn to tighten things up. My 2-hour streams always go like about 3 hours. Well, again, for those of you that heard it earlier, I apologize, but let's go through what's going to be happening in the next couple of days here. Tomorrow, we'll be doing the second part of the O.J. Simpson murder trial prosecutor's opening statements. We did Chris Darden last week, and God bless you all for not self-deleting during that horrifically boring and ill-prepared and ill-presented opening statements. Tomorrow, we'll be doing Marcia Clark, the other prosecutor's portion of the opening statements, which is a little better than Chris Darden's. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. Wednesday and Thursday are going to be really busy days for me. I'm going to start Wednesday. It'll be evening Korea time, morning US time. I'll be going on Andrew Legal Mindset's stream for a couple of hours, and then he'll quit his stream and then join my stream for a few more hours. So I'll be on Legal Mindset. Legal Mindset will be on me. I'll sleep for a couple of hours. And then Friday morning, my time, Thursday evening, US time, I'll be on Good Logic stream for 2 or 3 hours. And then when I have to, I'll leave there. And hopefully, I'm still working with Nick. Hopefully Nick Rekieta Law will be on my stream on Friday morning, late Thursday night, US time. So hopefully that will go through. We're trying to work the schedule out. It looks good. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. So Legal Mindset, me, Good Logic, then me with Nick. And then Friday night will be fair and balanced. Well, Friday night will be my stream. I'll probably be doing a lawsuit that Nirvana just won. And then Saturday morning, my time, Friday night, US time, I'll be on with Fair and Balanced to do our weekly Unexplained on Fair and Balanced channel. So there's a shit ton of stuff coming up. I mean, there's probably, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 10 streams in the next 4 days I'm going to be on. Hey, I'm popular. But we'll have a lot of fun with a lot of different people. Again, I'm going to be visiting Legal Mindset. I'm going to be visiting Good Logic. Hopefully, Legal Mindset will definitely be visiting me. And hopefully, Nick Rekieta will be visiting me. And then I'll be doing my own stuff in the meantime as well. So we're going to be good, assuming I survive the typhoon tonight. The window's that way. That way's the window. So come and join the party, subscribe, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Right now, we've got 337 people that are still sticking with us on this Maritime Monday niche stream. 340 likes. So, hey, we're right there. But I know that probably literally all of you that are still here, none of you have hit the like button. Please go down there and hit the like button. You're here. You enjoyed it. You know it. Don't deny it. At least do me the favor of just clicking that like button. If you feel so inclined and you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. All of you hit the notification button. And if you have already subscribed to the channel, just do the extra additional favor and look down there and check to make sure you're still subscribed. because YouTube just deletes people for no reason whatsoever. Thank you all so much for the super chats tonight. It was great. Deeply appreciated. What have we got here? Wait. Someone sent something that I saw that seemed to be important. Wait. Don't want to do this. Bass, thank you so much. Shh. We like your 4 hour long, 2 hour streams. Yeah. There's going to be some more of those coming down, I'm afraid, because frankly, I just talk too damn much. Oh, I keep getting past this here. I keep skipping past this one message. Okay, here we go. W Daisy Girl Williams, share name and chat of the place in South Korea you reside. I know you mentioned at the beginning of the stream the other day, Busan. I'm in the city of Busan on the very, very southeast corner of the country. So yeah, I live in Busan, Korea. Who was banned? Nobody was banned from my stream. Or were they? Somebody get banned? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, sometimes people just get unsubscribed. I've only banned like 3 people since I ever started this thing. Valhalla 08 says, look at the Jascon 4 rescue. Yeah, that's an odd thing. That was like from the bottom of the ocean. So yeah, that's something I'll have to look to see if there's some good videos on that. That was pretty wild. Yeah, the channel Busan guy. That's how old my channel is. My channel is so old that Busan is now spelled B-U-S-A-N. It used to be spelled P-U-S-A-N, but before that it was spelled B-U-S-A-N. Just governments get in control and they go, oh, we want to spell this with a P, so everybody has to change everything. Is Legal Mindset close to me? Legal Mindset is in the exact opposite corner of the country from me in Seoul. It's about 250 miles. What's that, like 400 kilometers, 350 kilometers? I'm in the southeast corner. He's in the northwest corner of the country. So, but it's only 2.5 hours by train. So we get together quite a bit for booze and pleasure. All right. Well, with that, I need to go see what's up with the storm because I don't hear anything, but I'm behind 2 major windows that are specifically designed not to hear what goes on outside. Yeah. Well, that's thing, Yvonne Aries says, Ricada got a second strike, so your stream has helped me today. That's why I want to get Nick on, and why I'm hoping Nick will come on so we can get some updates, as well as just let Nick be Nick. We'll be talking about humor. We'll be talking about funny things. We'll be talking about, that's one thing I want to talk about specifically with Nick is the loss of a sense of humor in the world. People that are so busy being offended by everything that they can't enjoy something simple, and the inability of people just to walk the fuck away. You don't like something, you don't think it's funny, don't watch it, or make your own rebuttal video. But this petty bullshit trying to get people deplatformed, I don't care what side you're on. If Nick was trying to get Keffels demonetized and booted off, I would probably have a problem with that as well. But it's just, if you don't like it, watch something else or make a critique of it. But we can't do that anymore. Mr. Squiggles, Legal Mindset, he's in North Korea. Pretty close. He's about 25 miles from North Korea. Seoul, the capital of South Korea, is about 25 miles south of North Korea. Not that far away. Well, with that, I'm gonna cut us off here. We are at the 2 hour and 49 minute mark. Again, it's time for me to go check to make sure things are still going. And the fact is so quiet out the window is kind of making me nervous, but I'll go out and shoot some video. If anything major happens, I'll come back online. But I'll continue to upload things throughout the night, assuming that I can't fall asleep. Thank you again for all of the mods that are here. Rose, it's good to see you again. Who else do we have? We've had Alan, we've had Steph. All of you guys are completely awesome. Steph, you're always awesome. Rose is always awesome. Alan, you're doing awesome. Thank you so much. Great to have you here. Like the video, subscribe to the video. If you want to use the all of the little emojis and things. And I'm starting to upload some members only stuff to YouTube. So if you want to join that, we have 3 membership tiers. Well, you know, whatever gets you access to pretty much everything. You demanded the membership, so I did it. We're going to be working on some new emojis, some additional emojis. I saw someone, maybe it was Alan, I can't remember. Someone was mentioning we need a tinfoil hat thing of me for Fridays. We'll do that. I'll get a tinfoil hat emoji made as soon as possible. And until then, we'll be styling. And after that, we'll be extra styling. What time is it here? It is 11:52 p.m. And I'm going to head on out. We just got another news announcement. What is the safety announcement I just got? Hang on, we can do this live. God dang, they keep pouring in. Information notification. The buses. They've stopped the buses in the city until at least 10 o'clock tomorrow. So that's okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Joe Choi, Ricada. Yeah, again, hopefully Ricada will be here Friday morning, Asia time, Thursday night, US time. Mods, thank you. Chat, you're the best chat on the internet. I will go to my grave saying that. You are all awesome. You all rock. Oh, Bass just signed up, the newest member just before we got through this. Thank you so much. You are clean and sober. Awesome. We have clean and sober. The next tier up is bent halos and broken wings, and the ridiculous high level. You don't get any benefits. You just decide you're crazy and you're insane and want to give me money, is the Fallen Angels tier. But click the join button and sign up if that's something you want to do. Jeff is 2 hours later than I'm 2 hours plus. You just switch AM to PM. 1 less than Eastern, but he's 14 hours. So basically what you do is from Eastern time, you add 1 hour and change AM to PM or PM to AM. From Central time, you add 2 hours and change AM to PM and vice versa. So if it's 9 p.m. Central time, add 2 hours, 11 p.m. and then switch PM to AM and you get 11 a.m. So 2 p.m. Central time is 11 a.m. here. But so yeah, that's an easy way to do conversions. All right. And I'm going to jump ship now, so to speak. And I'm going to go outside now and see what there is to see and take some video of the neighborhood. And I'll upload it. I'll get everything. And I'll keep you posted throughout the night. Again, one last time. I know I've said it a bajillion times, and this is where Farron calls me a fucking idiot and jumps on my shit because I repeat myself. But I just want y'all to know I love y'all. You all are great. You're all super. Come on tomorrow for O.J. Simpson prosecution part 2. Until then, take care of yourselves. I'll take care of myself, and I'll keep you posted how the typhoon's going. And whatever you do, make sure you enjoy your legal vices. Ooh, it's condensed.